Alcatraz, an impregnable prison camp surrounded by miles of the most deadly parts of Florida. Poisonous snakes, fierce and hungry alligators, miles of unmapped swamps, storms, hurricanes, fierce heat. No one's getting out of Alligator Alcatraz. The people in Alligator Alcatraz are subhumans, the worst of the worst. Alligator Alcatraz is going to teach these criminals a lesson. If you're upset by Alligator Alcatraz, just wait. Because when the Trump era ends, we're keeping it open for the corrupt crypto scammers like Don Jr. who cashed in on the presidency. Keeping it open for folks like Stephen Miller, Kristi Noem, and Tom Homan, who ignore the law, ignore court orders, and deploy masked cops in warrantless raids. We're even keeping it open for the state and federal agents who abuse their power. You built this, MAGA, and some of you will enjoy the view from inside the wire.
New tonight, video from inside the controversial facility politicians are calling Alligator Alcatraz. New documents show criminals may not be the only ones who end up at the new state-run detention facility in the Everglades.
NBC6 politics reporter Hatzel Vela got a hold of state documents that show the facility may hold mothers, children, and the elderly, which contradicts what the president said earlier this week.
As more detainees arrive at what state leaders call Alligator Alcatraz, we learn more about who can end up at the facility.
Very soon, this facility will house some of the most menacing migrants, some of the most vicious people on the planet.
That's what President Trump said Tuesday while visiting the now highly controversial Everglades facility. But state documents show otherwise. This 37-page document, when talking about facility, says an unaccompanied minor under 18, persons over 70, females with children, and family groups would not be placed in hold rooms. And juveniles, babies, pregnant women, and others for whom it is medically necessary should have regular access to snacks, milk, juice, etc.
Before we go in,
State Democratic lawmakers on Thursday tried to get inside the facility, but were told they could not go inside because of security concerns. They argue Florida law allows their visit and question the state's transparency.
this process has occurred with no transparency whatsoever, with Governor Ron DeSantis handing out contracts to his friends to build what is essentially a concentration camp.
Through court documents, we also learned the Department of Homeland Security has not authorized or funded the detention center, and that the state has not applied for federal funds, despite what the governor has repeatedly said, that the state will be reimbursed. Already, we've seen job listings for the detention center. This one, for example, a custodial officer pays almost $100,000. The officer would be required to live on site with meals and flights provided. Throughout the week, despite rain, heat, humidity, and the onslaught of mosquitoes,
this is why we have to fight.
Protesters have stood outside the facility, citing concerns for surrounding protected wetlands and animals in the Everglades. But could there be any political fallout?
I don't think Alligator Alcatraz by itself will cause a major political problem. Certainly not for the governor.
Our political analyst, Alex Pinella, says Trump-DeSantis immigration policies remain popular in the state and across the country. But the compilation of immigration policies like Alligator Alcatraz and the effects the recently passed Big Beautiful Bill could end up having an impact on the midterm elections.
That could flip 5, 6, 7 congressional districts in other parts of the country.
That is nationally, but locally, Pinellas thinks all 3 Republican members of Congress are in pretty safe districts, meaning they're likely to win re-election. Reporting in.
Has not released the number of people being detained at the so-called Alligator Alcatraz, but for the first time ever, we're hearing from several men who are being held inside the facility.
NBC6 politics reporter Hatzel Vela live right now with what inmates are reporting this evening. Hatzel.
Liamsi Izquierdo is a self-described Cuban urban artist, says he's here legally, is a permanent resident, but last week he was arrested for a violent incident, and tonight he talks to us from inside that detention center. Lienz Izquierdo on the phone describing what it's like inside the so-called alligator Alcatraz. Says he's been at the detention facility out in the Everglades since Friday. No water to bathe, he says. It's been 4 days since he showered. 400 people he believes are inside the facility. Only gets fed once a day, he says, and some of the food had worms. Detention center lights are on 24/7. The mosquitoes, he says, are the size of elephants. Izquierdo's partner, Katia, says he's a permanent resident who was arrested last week. First taken to TGK, then to Miramar, and finally to the Everglades facility.
Good morning, sir. You speak English?
No. Here is Izquierdo in bond court last Thursday.
You're charged with aggravated assault with deadly weapon and battery.
The police report says it all has to do with a violent dispute with a tow company worker who was trying to repossess a jet ski. Now back to the call. Complaints they're not allowed to go outside and the tents are freezing. Izquierdo's girlfriend says these are not humane conditions. Also on the call, we heard from 3 other guys who had similar complaints. One, a Colombian national, says he's been there 3 days without his medicine. We've reached out to ICE, but a spokesperson says they cannot talk about detainees who are not in one of their facilities. Remember, the Everglades Detention Center is run by the state, but the state has not responded to our request for information. Reporting from the newsroom.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very, very much for joining us on Shabaka's Black Experience Enhanced here on StreamYard. The air date of this episode is July 8th, 2025. And we're joined by Black Lion across the world from us. Greetings there to you, Black Lion. How you be?
Oh, can you hear me? Oh,
yeah. But we're getting feedback. Okay.
Concerns about flooding following 2 days of consistent rain.
NBC6 politics reporter Hansel Vela has been at the site and joins us from the Everglades with the latest.
Transportation workers digging holes across the main entrance. They say a sign is going up calling this detention facility Alligator Alcatraz. During and since the president's visit, as expected in summer months, those afternoon thunderstorms easily create flooding. And in swampy areas like this one, plenty of mud. Already reports of flooding inside the facility, despite what the head of Florida's emergency management said yesterday.
It is a fully aluminum frame structure rated for winds of 110 miles an hour or a high-end Category 2.
Today, a spokesperson for the Florida's emergency management told us vendors went back and tightened any seams at the base of the structures that allowed water intrusion during the heavy storm, which they say was minimal. The state says the Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport will have the capacity to house 3,000 people. It'll be staffed by about 1,000 folks. And while the state hasn't said who will be staffing it, we did get a hint at Tuesday's roundtable.
200 men and women, soldiers and airmen underneath Major General John Haas's command.
Last week, a spokesperson for the Florida National Guard told NBC6 they would have soldiers at the facility starting July 1st, who would be helping with site security and would be here as long as necessary. Impact from this, of course, on the surrounding wetlands, still a concern for many.
The partnership with the state has been great.
Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons tells us the goal is to keep detainees here no longer than 2 weeks, where they can appear before a judge and be deported from the camp's existing runway.
Is the administration still going after the worst of the worst?
We are.
But according to data reviewed by NBC News, almost half of those currently in ICE custody have neither been convicted nor charged with a crime. Back at the entrance of the facility, constant activity. You even see local food trucks going inside. And something interesting to note here, some businesses choose to block out their name and Department of Transportation number. We have asked state officials when we should expect detainees to arrive at the facility. They referred us to immigration officials. Those officials have not answered our questions. Reporting from
What up, y'all? What's happening? What's happening? I'm
Okay,
having
ladies
trouble
and
with this phone,
gentlemen,
so
we're talking about, alligator Alcatraz right there. And then we see you there, V40. Thank you for joining us. All right.
Big
Okay, we
Fours,
got
Black Power,
feedback.
brothers.
Black Power, Black Power.
Okay.
I'm having a little technical difficulties on my end, so you know what's happening.
Okay.
Hold it
All
down.
right. And
Hold
so therefore, yeah, always. Okay. V40, big fours, Black Power. Okay.
For sure, brother, for sure. I see y'all up here edifying, empowering, and educating.
Okay. All right. And so what we're seeing here with oh yeah. And so what it is, this alligator Alcatraz, you know what I'm saying, man? Okay, so what we're saying with that. Okay, alligator Alcatraz, is that wouldn't that constitute cruel and unusual and punishment? Okay, we got an echo there.
You mean to the alligator?
Dynamite, you know what I'm saying?
You seem to be cutting in and out, my brother.
Well, actually, to both, to the alligator and to the inmates being there. And then, of course, so they got all kind of critters out there in that swampland. Okay, I'm cutting in and out.
Yeah, semi, but keep going. We can hear you. Yep. It's been a little technically difficulty, but you're still on. Keep going. And while Shabaka getting his audio right, it might be the headset thing, Yeah. But let me bring you on. Black Power, y'all. What's up? Yours truly, the Black Oakland Lions with Shabaka's Black Experience in hand. For your Tuesday report, we are bringing you everything that concerns Black folk from the beginning of time to 10 minutes ago. Check it out. And of course, don't forget to hit hashtag resurrection of the mental dead and get over to Shabaka's page. Show some love. Throw the hearts up. Throw the stars up. Because, one of us make it, we all make it, baby. So that's what we're striving for. Be a exemplary example. Why I keep saying the word that I know I can't get down with, but it's all good. So, yeah. Absolutely. It's Shabaka's Black Experience in hand. Tonight's episode is July the 8th, 2025. All is well in the hood as it should be. So on with the show. I hope he got his audio ready. Shabaka Black Experience in hand. All yours, big brother.
All right, thank you, Black Open Line, Dynamite, and greetings, people. We're coming here to you from Sin City, and it's about a pleasant 160 degrees. It's 105 degrees out here. You know, just a little warm. But however, we are the children of the sun. Okay, so we're asking everybody, to keep it clean tonight. Is because they're trying our best to get us shut down. So, quite natural. Of course, we can't let that happen. All right, greetings there to V40. All right, greetings there to Black Power. Also, too, we got the Outlaw with us. Okay, we're going to add him to the stage. Okay, greetings there, T Outlaw. How's everything out there in the mill?
You have to unmute your mic, brother.
Okay, his mic. Okay, let's see here. Add him to the stage. Okay, and okay, Dr. Barnes, you with us, sir? Okay, V40, he's got his mic muted. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I'm on deck,
D,
brother.
okay, and D Outlaw should have his mic on muted. Okay. Okay, D Outlaw, we saw some telemetry coming your way, man. Please say that there again, man, and how you doing today? Okay, moving right along. Okay, the mics are on muted on what have you. Okay, so we're streaming this here on Facebook and whatnot. Okay, and so what it is, you people, as we already know, going on here with this alligator Alcatraz, it's kind of interesting and what have you, because I think it's cruel and unusual punishment and what have you, and then two, and had a phone call come in right here. And boy, they trying everything out here to mess us up, man, for real. Okay, so somebody try to call me. Okay.
You got to mute your line. I mean, that's what I do. I mute all calls because it's showtime, it's business time, and yeah, no calls. Oh, yep. Can you hear me all right, brother? You going in and out.
Yes,
I
sir.
hold
I
it.
hear you loud and
Okay.
clear.
I don't know what's wrong with your audio though. What's going on with yours?
Okay, because I'm here on a headset right here, and do you hear that idiot box in the background?
No, but you should turn it off if you can hear it. Yep.
Okay. All righty.
No,
Okay.
nothing
So,
interrupting us, especially the
oh,
calls. The calls got to stop. I already put mine on Do Not Disturb. They know what's
no,
up.
right. Okay. So, moving right along here, once again, we're going here to the runway and we're taking it off. Okay. So we are streaming live here on Facebook. Okay. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the studio. Okay. So please share it, share far and share wide. And then, two, we just want to get some feedback on this alligator Alcatraz. Now, people, do you think this alligator Alcatraz is exactly legal? And what I mean by that is they got something called cruel and unusual punishment, which I believe is the Eighth Amendment. And please correct me if I'm wrong. Now, to put these people out here in the swampland, which is dangerous already, because of the predators that you have out there, poisonous snakes and what have you, plus mosquitoes as big as footballs, from what I understand, and plus the humidity that is out there, which is probably at about 1,000%. Okay, so is this president overstepping his boundaries? Does he have himself shored up enough where he does not have to fear about being impeached? And keep in mind, as that he is a convicted felon himself. You know what I'm saying? You know,
The worst of
and
the worst. He gonna have a home in Alligator Alcatraz.
yeah, yeah. You know what I'm saying? You know, you would think such. You know what I mean? You would think such. And then now, what kind of system of justice is this? Is this you know how should I say discriminatory? You know what I'm saying? And then the man, you know, is a convicted felon on 34 counts. And I don't know how he even became the president with that. Does that make any kind of sense, or am I the only one that's tripping?
Well,
Yeah, we
brother,
all
you
tripping.
know, to touch on the, I was about to say, yeah, I'm be honest, we definitely tripping to sit there and remain subject to something like that. To be honest,
Yeah,
like you said a
absolutely.
moment ago, difference between legal and lawful. When you operating
Right.
lawfully, then that's based on morale. But when it's based on legality, that's just based on whoever's writing the law and whoever can enforce it. So they can
Yeah,
write anything in the
exactly.
law, you feel me, and it'll technically be legal. You feel me?
Absolutely. You know what I mean? And then on top of it, now, is this here a nation of laws, or is this here a nation of crooks and thieves and billionaires and what have you? Okay. It's because, like, we all know about the brother over there in Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore, right? Is because he is saying that you know, that Africa needs to control its own resources, which I don't blame them for. And then, not to mention the fact that none of these European powers, including the United States, would not exist economically without the raw materials from Africa, you see. And then you got the Chinese over there, you know, acquiring land. Then, of course, I all remember the Berlin Conference that they had, what was that day, 1888, where the European powers are just going to decide to divide Africa for their own wealth. Now, also too, down there in the Congo, which is what's called Zaire, and that there's the same place where Muhammad Ali regained the heavyweight title in 1974 from George Foreman. Okay, but the Belgians, they were so cold, man, is that they was cutting off the hands of the people. You see what I'm saying? Before they could, before refusing to pick the rubber from the rubber trees. Okay, and we got D Outlaw with us. Okay, now keep in mind the main benefactor of this rubber for these trees were Firestone tires and Goodyear. Okay, now what does that tell you? Number one. Second of all, with the jailbird, you know, when he gets on Air Force One, you know, when what's his name gets on Air Force One, I just call it the jailbird. You know what I mean? And then it's just incredible of how that they would have all these laws that they want us to follow. You know, when I say us, the general public, but you know, the head of state is not following these laws. Okay, now, as we all know, for the president to go to trial, okay, he would have to be what they would call impeached. Okay, and then what the way how that there would happen is that the Congress would draw up the articles of impeachment, laying down the crimes, you know, that are against them. All right. So then what happens is they take it over to the U.S. Senate. And then the U.S. Senate decides to have the impeachment. And if they do, then what happens is that the U.S. Senate acts as the jury, and the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court presides over the proceedings. Now, the only two presidents that I know that got impeached was a dude named Andrew Johnson and Bill Clinton. Okay. But none of them were convicted. No president has ever been removed from office
off of an impeachment, because the only thing with an impeachment is just like you riding down the highway and the police pull you over and they write you up a citation where you say, well, you sign, I promise to appear in court. You say that's all what an impeachment is. Getting him convicted, okay, is a whole different ball game, and no U.S. president has ever been convicted in an impeachment. Now, the closest one who I think that would have got convicted would be Richard Nixon. Okay, but what did Richard Nixon do? He resigned from office before he was convicted with the Watergate scandal. And if everybody ever saw that motion picture called Forrest Gump, there's a scene in there where Tom Hanks is at the hotel where Richard Nixon tells him to stay at the Watergate Hotel, and then he calls up the front office and see the guys going in there with all these flashlights, which was the Watergate break-in. Okay, so old Richard Nixon, he gets up there and says that famous line, ladies and gentlemen, the American people have a right to know if their president is a crook. I am not a crook. Okay. So what had happened was, as the case got closer and closer, implicating him more, what did he do? He resigned from office.
Now he got his boy he put Ford in, and Ford pardoned him.
Exactly. Now, glad you brought that up there, Dynamite. Okay, now Ford was never elected vice president or president. Okay, so then he went on there and pardoned Nixon. Okay, after Nixon had resigned, you see what I mean, to me, which was a huge miscarriage of justice. But yet, though, they want us to go out here and to obey all these laws. But what about the lawmakers themselves and the law enforcement officials themselves violating said law? Okay, could we get some comments on that, please?
Shabaka, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yeah, come on with your comment, please. Yeah.
Oh man, I apologize. I had some audio technical difficulties. How y'all brothers doing tonight?
Oh man, we hanging out here, man.
Black powerful.
Yeah. That there is the one and only Dr. Kevin Barnes. You know, his platform is Outlaw Radio. He comes to us out of Milwaukee, or the Mill as they refer to it as. And Dr. Barnes is always having some hot topics, hot subjects on his platform. And we definitely appreciate him, for joining us this evening. Okay. So now the point is, the premise that I've laid, or I think I did, and correct me if I'm wrong. Now you got a guy who is the president, who's a 34 count convicted felon, and this guy had went down there, man, to set up Alcatraz. What's that? The Everglade Alcatraz or Swamp Alcatraz?
Alligator Alcatraz.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the correction. Alligator Alcatraz. Question: is this cruel and unusual punishment under the 8th Amendment? And keep in mind that you got a convicted felon who signed this executive order.
I think the main thing is, from what I'm hearing, is that the immigrants that because he stepped back and said he wasn't going to go at the farms and the restaurants. So the last I heard, that they would house immigrants there, and farmers would be able to bid on these immigrants so they can get workers for their farms. Now, I don't know how true that is, but if that's the case, this is the worst case of insanity on a political level that I've seen. I'm not that old, but I've been around to see a bunch of it. But my disbelief is that the American people, number one, elected this guy, and then number two, they are backing him. He's been able to just take over the Supreme Court. He's getting his way right now politically, and he has politicians scared. I'm hoping everybody's paying attention to when the midterms come up, so we can try at least. And I'm not a Democrat or a Republican, because I don't play partisan politics. I'm for my people, but I'm hoping that we are in a situation where we're going to have to go to the booth and try to put some blue in there. And once again, I'm no Democrat, but right now we got to tip the scales of power amongst our representatives, and we have to show those that have gone along to get along
that they were wrong and they need to be punished and they need to be removed and ostracized. But I would totally agree with you in reference to Nixon and how he was able to get away with so much corrupt behavior and do what he did. And technology was his downfall because of the ability to record his voice. Now, I'm hoping that
Absolutely.
somehow, some way, technology will come along somehow, and we can expose this dude for who and what he is, which is a white nationalist. And this is what
Right.
I expect from a white nationalist president. I just can't believe how many of us, meaning us as Black Americans, are actually
Right.
in favor of him. I see Black men every day saying he's the best president we've ever had, and they
Yeah.
love him. And I just don't understand it. That's what I'm confused by.
Okay. And then also too, Dr. Barnes, to prove your point even further. When this dude was running for president, man, you know what I'm saying? I saw him having people up here, Black people wearing T-shirts that says, "Hey, brother Eugene, thank you for joining us." Okay, that says,
Good
quote
day. Hope
unquote.
everybody's doing all right. Hold on for a second. Let me get my mic and stuff right in here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Take your time. Now, the part that I found, Dr. Barnes, so incredible, man, is where these
No,
Black
I was
folks.
talking to some of my people on the phone for a
Okay,
second.
okay. Where they are out here wearing T-shirts that says "niggas for Trump." Now, that's the part that got to me. Niggas for Trump? I mean, man, come on, man. You know, what is this? I mean, did we progress, okay, or did we regress? You see what I'm saying? I mean, man, you know, I'm totally lost on that one, man. I mean, is there
I'm on.
something is there something they putting in the air, something they putting in the food, a combination of the above,
In
or
70s talking
what?
about talking about black nationalism, nationhood,
Hmm.
statehood, nation statism.
Right.
Now we right back to talk about constitutional law and you feel me? Like we expect something different. Show me a president in history that has not done based on the benefit of them and has
Exactly.
positioned himself to work for us. I don't know what our expectations be honest with you. And I think in all honesty, what we've done is we've just many, not all, because obviously, you know, myself, Conrad's on the call. But for many, they've just given up and conceded to the possibility that we're supposed to be ruled. You know, this is just natural for us to be ruled by a foreign group.
Yeah. Now, one
Well,
thing though, man.
technically,
Now,
we still voted
yeah,
85% democratically.
yeah.
Say that again, brother.
We did. Black people voted 85%. Technically, Black people still voted 85% for the Democratic Party, for whatever that's worth. So we done our job. But it's
Right.
these other groups that we kind of identify in my circle as tethers who came along, Latinos, white women, and they
Right.
kind of helped him tip the scales. There was a slight uptick in Black votership, but I think it was something like 12%, which in
Okay.
itself is not enough to really turn things in his favor. So I think that's why Black people are in a holding pattern saying, well, hold on, we voted against him. Y'all voted for him, and now y'all looking at us to support y'all because he's now coming down on you all. So
Yeah.
I can't really blame us for him being the president, but I'm just so like Latinos in particular. He was saying what he was going to do in all through his campaign, and they still voted for him. They still
Yeah.
endorsed him. White women as well with the DEI thing, and they're the biggest beneficiaries of DEI than more so than anyone. White
That
women are
part.
considered a minority. So
That
a lot of
part.
people just voted for against their own interests, right? And we just
Yeah.
find out that the South Africans are going to come over here and get first choice for the farms that have been taken from farmers who were farmers for Trump. They've since lost their farms, and we find out that there's a program called Acre Trade, and they are the
Yeah.
ones who are in control of distributing this foreclosed land. And JD Vance is the biggest stockholder in this company.
Yeah.
So
Now, also too, Dr. Barnes, not cutting your wisdom. You have to understand that these are bores that he is opening up to. Now, what is a bore? A bore is a white person of Dutch descent, okay,
right.
in Azania, because the real name of the place is Azania. And I've spoken with brothers from there, you know, oh man, this must have been about the late 1990s, okay? And what it is man, the reason why that they are so strict with apartheid, which is a Dutch word meaning apart. Here in the United States, they call it segregation. Okay, because the reason why is because they had wanted to kill the spirit of the Zulu nation. Now, King Shaka forged it. His grandnephew, I believe his name was Set Wow, he was the one that they pulverized. You see what I'm saying? Because the European had the gun, had the cannon, and although Shaka was using excellent military tactics, okay, they didn't have no firearms. You see, so they went hand to hand, and I believe the weapon that Shaka made was called an assegai. You see what I mean? I believe it, off of my research. But what it is that I've gotten into arguments with these individuals, man, on the
Hey, Shabaka, want to let you know, Brother People's on the line too. He wanted to interject something about what you were saying
oh, by
earlier.
all
You can give
means.
him a chance.
Oh
Yep.
yeah, by all means, Brother P. And I know Brother
I mean,
P for calling me.
I kind of lost my train of thought. Okay, because I was trying to say something, but I'm coming in with lightning, and lightning got me mute.
No,
So
no, no. He was talking. Waiting on Shabaka to get finished. That's all. He be on a
Okay,
roll, but he'll be
okay.
back.
Black
Back
Power.
as soon as we get back together. Hey, Black. Whoa.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Black
So
Power.
therefore,
Black Power.
always. Thank you for hey, brother DeWalt, man, congratulations on little baby coming to the world, brother.
I
You know what
appreciate it.
I'm saying? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
most definitely. Yeah. So
Congratulations, brother.
Yes, indeed.
yeah,
Appreciate you, brother.
and the
Black Power.
utmost of absolutely, and the utmost of congratulations to you. Now, King Shaka, okay, had passed down his war tactics, okay, to his brother who succeeded him, and there was two kings after Ding An, who was Shaka's brother, that went to King Setwayo. Okay, now King Setwayo was the king of the Zulu nation of when the British had pulverized them. You see what I mean? And then there's a film called Zulu Dawn that deals with that. But my question is this, as I stated before, how of us in our own house gonna allow invaders to get the best of us? You see what I mean? I mean, you in your own house and you know where all your power tools are. You see, and Dr. Barnes, you and I have had this discussion, okay? And is Dr. Barnes still with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I just point to
Yeah. Oh,
a lack of solidarity. I
yeah.
just don't think we have solidarity. I don't think you talking about power and power tools. I don't see where we've cultivated our power. It's just like my city is a city of silos where you got this group over here, this group
Right.
over here, this group over there. Divide and conquer
Right.
always works. So we just haven't cultivated
Right.
our power yet. That's why I believe in the delineation movement, because I feel like it's time for us to self-identify and circle the wagons and do for us. We
Okay.
welcome everybody into our neighborhood. You can call them invaders, but we might call them guests because they move in, take over the businesses. We shop with the businesses. It
Right.
empowers them.
Right.
None of that money comes back to
Right.
our community. So until we learn how to do that, we're just talking, because without money, nothing else is moving.
Exactly, and you're absolutely correct on that. And to prove that point even further, it's just like in 1992 in Los Angeles, as we had our man Sarge, your favorite man there, Lightning Sarge, come up there saying, "Oh no, well those blacks are tearing down the stores and their own community and what have you." But keep in mind is that
That's your favorite sparring partner.
yeah,
They bad.
okay,
I was like getting on him too hard. I was like, I'm gonna leave him alone.
yeah, but
Shabaka get right.
okay.
Most
Okay, but
definitely.
the thing is though is that we got to have more of the Black Wall Streets, and I visited the Black Wall Street down there in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then also too there was another similar situation that they had. Okay, somebody's got some feedback right there.
Can everybody mute your lines if you're not when you're not speaking? That is.
Okay, all right. So therefore, We had the Black Wall Street. We built up our own economics. But the thing is that has happened, and I think Dr. Barnes, you and I had talked about this here on your platform on Outlaw Radio. Okay, now when they came up there, when our people were sitting at the lunch counter, you know what I'm saying, and they getting all kind of abuse on them. They throwing food on them. They throwing used dishes on them and stuff like that. Now ask yourself this question here: if you're being treated so bad inside this establishment, why would you want to eat there? You see? Why would you want to eat there? You'll say, because if you're getting treated like this, man, I'm quite sure, man, that the food has got a whole lot of extra added additives, if you know what I mean, because I'm not trying to turn nobody's stomach. You know what I'm saying? Now, there was a sister who did a YouTube clip, and I didn't get her name. Okay, so she was talking to this dude over there in Nigeria, I believe. They got into a huge argument, is because the sister stated, of which she was right about. She has stated that if you was over here in 1962 as well too, you would still be treated like that with all the fire hoses, all the abuse, you see, the police brutality. Now, John Lewis, we appreciate his contribution to our cause, although he was an integrationist. But there was, when they marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, the police department knocked him upside his head, man, and knocked him cold. So what happened with John Lewis, he just started going on this alphabetized agenda. And then John Lewis is going to go there and sit on the floor of the U.S. Congress. Now, man, no disrespect to Mr. Lewis. We appreciate, his sacrifice, his contribution, but you don't go sit on the floor, brother. You stand up in solidarity. Okay? Dr. Martin Luther King, shortly before he was assassinated, he had made the statement that I think that I led our people into a burning house with integration. And I appreciate the man realizing his mistake. Now, this isn't hatred. So, for all you other groups out there that want to report the page and all that, you are wrong. We have a right to live. We have a right to exist. We have a right to raise our families and protect our children. We can't have our men going through alternative lifestyles. You see what I mean? Just like with the Willie Lynch doctrine, and I think Dr. Barnes, you and I discussed that on your platform as well too, where you had the role reversal, the Willie Lynch doctrine for 1713, I believe it was, is that what you would do is that you demasculate the male and the presence of the female, preferably that she is pregnant with a male child and her fear would transform into the unborn baby. So he would have the instinct already to be passive, not rebellious. You see what I mean? And then they
Are we
would say,
emasculated today? Are
yeah,
we as
Dr.
black men
Barnes.
emasculated? We are? Okay.
Yeah, you see what I mean? And then too, also too, Dr. Barnes, I don't know if I told you or not, and I already told Dynamite, okay, is that what it is that I'm pulling up the logs, okay, because you remember when I pulled up the logs of the slave ships that were mainly from Portugal and stuff like, let's see, Portugal, which was mainly going from Angola. No, actually, no. The real name of the place is Mutamba, so that's what I'm gonna call it. From Mutamba to Brazil. Okay, so quite naturally, of course, is that I'm gonna pull up the naval records or the maritime records from the United States that sailed to Africa and brought slaves here. Now, you do have what they call foundational Black Americans. And Dr. Barnes, you and I discussed this here intelligently, and I'm just saying this here for the sake of our arguments. Well, if we was already here, okay, then how are we going to allow these invaders to come here and take the land? Okay, number one. Now, the reason why I'm asking that question is because at the end of the Vietnam War, a lot of the vets were saying, is that we were inside their house. They had those networks of tunnels, man, for miles, man, all up under the ground. You know what I'm saying? Whole cities up under the ground, you see. So where they had monitored the troops, troop movements and what have you. And we do know the way the Vietnam conflict got started. is that the French, because it used to be called French Indochina, they tried to go in there and take over the place, man, about 1946, 1947, right after World War II. So what had happened was is that a place at Dien Bien Phu, the French lost 8,000 troops and they pulled out. And then for some odd reason, okay, President Kennedy was over there and he was sending in advisors, okay. So then what had happened was after President Kennedy's assassination, Lyndon Johnson became the president. And in 1965, he sent over 500,000 troops over there. So what had happened was from 65 to 69, people were protesting the war in Vietnam. They had protests in Chicago, New York, all across the US of A. And then President Johnson got up there and said in 1968, his classic line, I will not seek nor will I accept the nomination of my party for president of the United States. Okay. So after that, Johnson was out. Okay. So there was a young man, the president's brother by the name of Robert F. Kennedy, who put his hat in the ring in the primaries to run for president, capitalizing off the coattails of his brother who was assassinated. Okay. And then he himself was assassinated June 1968. Okay, so then after that, then Hubert Humphrey, who was the vice president under LBJ, decided to put his hat in the ring to be the president. Okay, so then what had happened was you had this guy, a Republican, who was the vice president under Eisenhower, who was also a congressman from California by the name of Richard Milhouse Nixon. And the irony and the hypocrisy of him was his campaign was on law and order. Now remember that, people, law and order. Now, how are you going to be up here talking about law and order, right? And you up here committing criminal acts. Now, one thing I will say about Donald John Trump ain't never said he got a campaign on law and order, and his actions is proving it.
Right.
So I'm mad at him, but I ain't mad at him. At least he's honest about what he says. Now, here's something else for you. Let's turn back the hands of time to 2016. What was one of the main things that he said, man, and his point was proven? In 2016 now, he said that you got a lot of stupid people in politics. So his election proves it. Selection or what have you proves it. You know what I'm saying, brother? Brother DeWalt. That proves it. Okay. So now he's not going to get impeached. Okay, it's because you got a Republican Congress and you got a Republican Senate. Okay, so you got a Republican House and you got a Republican Senate, and it's pretty much, man, that these individuals, in my opinion, are co-conspirators as well too with Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just a ridiculous, people. You know what I'm saying? It's just a ridiculous, And then on top of it, somebody says we got a nice background right here, okay? But for some odd reason, okay, and now we got it right here. We're having trouble streaming to Facebook. This may be an issue on Facebook's end. It is possible the stream was ended or deleted on Facebook. We'll keep trying and let you know if it's resolved.
I got the back end. Don't worry about nothing.
Okay. Right.
It's streaming on everywhere. It should be streaming at.
Okay. All right.
That's right. We're streaming in live in Ethiopia right now as well. Black Power.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. And greetings, Ethiopia. You know what I'm saying? The land of some of the most beautiful women on the planet. Okay. All
Black
right.
Power. Black Power.
But
and they are hypnotically beautiful. You know what I'm saying? And I had asked the sister up there in Panther Town about 8 years ago. I say, why are the woman in Ethiopia so hypnotically beautiful? She says it is a blessing of God. she'll get no argument from me, man. I tell you that much, man. I'm like, wow, And then on top of it, this guy that you have right here is the chief executive. You see what I'm saying? He's a piece of work. Okay. Uh, he's telling you how he honestly feels. And then with Alligator Alcatraz, coming up there, which me personally I think is cruel and unusual punishment. You know what I'm saying? If you ask me, okay, because aren't you supposed to be able to go to trial first and what have you? Now, don't get me wrong. All these illegal aliens here, okay, I'm for getting rid of them. It's for the simple fact is that they pulling away from us. But the powers that be is that they go on and hire them because they know that they can exploit them and they don't have to pay them minimum wage. Okay, and the way how they exploit it, well, if you don't go up here and do this work for $2 an hour, we call ICE on you. The Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And then shout out to my former Congresswoman, Maxine Waters, when I was living in Los Angeles, okay, where she tried to stand up there to ICE and they slammed the door in her face. Well, Ms. Maxine Waters, ma'am, you need to go on and retire, not taking away, of what you tried to do, sister. But you did your job as best that you could, considering the circumstances. Now, another thing that I'm finding very, very ironic, okay, and I even saw this here on mainstream media, is that the Latino community is upset with us, is because we're not going out there, you see what I'm saying, standing up for their rights or their immigration rights and what have you. And I really would like to get some feedback on that one. Comments, please.
I don't know that they're upset with us. Are they upset with us? I mean, they have to feel and go through what we went through to earn our whatever we have, which is not much. But because I have a Latino partner here. He's from the South Side, which is predominantly Latino. He and we work very well together. We've organized together. If I call him for support, he'll support me, and vice versa. But he might not be the norm. He might be the exception to the rule. And you all deal with way more Latinos on the West Coast than we do here in the Midwest in that regard. Right. So I don't know that they're mad, but I know they feel some kind of way. But if they're mad at us, they're mad at the wrong person. They should be mad at the dude who they voted for.
For sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But black people in this nation, we've been talking to our Latino and Hispanic brothers and sisters for years about who this white man is and how he works and so forth. But a lot of them, they tended to go to the Republican and white side when they voted for some reason. I'm not sure of that. But, a lot of them, they don't even identify with us, and they thought they were getting some favoritism from those white folks, and they did for quite a bit of time. We have to be honest about that. They were coming here, they were able to set up shop and get jobs and create business opportunities for themselves, and then they would in turn send their monies back home. That's the difference between Foundation Black America and the rest of the people that are here in this state. We don't have partners or an alternative place where we can send our money offshore and make it work for ourselves. But, we were very frank with them when they first started arriving in the 1970s. And at one point in time, we did have some type of unification platform along with those brothers and sisters. But, it's a divide and conquer situation. And many times, and especially when the gangs and stuff started forming in the 1980s and the drug war started, everybody got kind of separated and went off on their own venture. So, but we did try to warn them and tell them who these folks are. They didn't listen, but it's nothing we can really do about it because basically they're on their own, just like our folks had to fight for our rights to be recognized. I mean, we're not fully there, but at least we made some type of progress of unification within the Black community ourselves. And this time, we just been kind of sitting on the sideline watching the thing go down. I know our Haitian brothers and sisters are being attacked now, which is their African people, just like we are. We should be more concerned about them than the ones that are that don't identify with being Black. So certainly, it's some measures we can take along that way. But they're now being targeted. They've been being targeted since Trump come out and talking about cats and dogs situation, eating cats
Oh
and
yeah,
dogs. So that made it
yeah.
blatant that they were going to be a primary target for this Republican regime. But yeah, we got a bunch of madness here in this nation that we're going to have to deal with at some point in time. And we really need a black revolution to take place here in this nation. We've been very complacent. A lot of black people have been very comfortable in their
Yes,
circumstances, and a
yes.
lot of them just don't have the fight in them because they feel already out the gate that we are a losing force just based on the white man's bombs and guns. But hey, we
Right.
got as plenty bombs and guns as they do, and they live right here amongst us, and so they're not going to be without scathe as well.
Right.
But yeah, there is a very big demand for a black revolution right now. And as Africa itself is starting to assert their self determination, we must
Right.
begin to do the same thing as well if we want to get better progress in where we live in at.
Yes, indeed. I
Okay.
agree
Now
with
let
the
me
brother.
ask you this here,
There
I
brother.
we
agree with the
go.
brother.
There we
Yes,
go.
indeed. I agree.
I'm
I
right
agree
on
with that
par with the
brother.
brother.
Oh, my
Yeah,
bad.
I agree
Yeah,
I
with
for
that
agree.
sure.
there too.
I
Now
agree.
let's get some.
I agree with the brother. It was that Dr. Barnes that was just talking. This is K. DeWalt, New Black Panther Party. And
Hey, Kay.
yes, indeed. And yeah, and what he said was it was revealing because a lot of us, a lot of our people identify as being black, but are they
That was Brother
psychological?
Eugene, brother. Just so you know.
Say that again, sir.
But that was the brother helping us broadcast into Africa, the African
Oh,
region there.
Black Power. Well,
Yeah.
a lot of brothers they might identify as black, but are they psychologically black? Because most
Okay, now
people
that's
over
the
here,
part right there.
right? Because the Stockholm syndrome is very prevalent in our community, with all the abuse that have this kind of like subtle abuse that us as black people and brown people have been getting throughout the years. But I will tell you this: um, this platform is definitely awakening a lot of the brothers and sisters to a new horizon. I believe that this new wave thing that we got for each other is black love and black unity, something that the new Black Panther Party implemented in our programs is first we respect our brother and keep our brother with love, show our brother the love. And that alone within itself will turn the tables with us being the majority on the planet. It's
Yes.
4.4 billion black minds that once we come together and collectively and build something toward our liberation, we want liberation. Most definitely, we want liberation, and we'll black that call by any means necessary. We'll put our lives on the line
Absolutely.
just to have our children not to go through the bull crap that we've been going through for so many years. So we're gonna black that call. You don't have to worry about that. The revolution is on.
Yes,
And it's a
sir.
new day for the black man, woman, and child.
Be
And they
heavy,
better
heavy. And
recognize
I
we're
did
not the
want to
one.
chime in real swift.
Pardon me. Go
What's the
ahead,
deal,
sir.
brother K? The Wall, Big Fours. Nah, you good. You already know Big Fours, brothers. Conrad V at 40M. You already know.
Oh, black power. Yes, sir.
Congratulations, by the
Always.
way.
Thank you.
Oh
You already know.
we respect Mr. V40, because I've
Always.
discussed with things
Always.
with him on other platforms as well too. Now, the thing is this: when we first started Shabaka's Black Experience Enhanced, our original co-producer, the one and only Mad Dr. D, he transitioned. Let's see, about 4 years ago. Okay, so his firstborn. Okay, she made a trip to Azania a couple of years back. Okay. And I had asked her that when she went to Azania, did she feel any type of ancestral connection? And she stated very, very much so. Okay. So now keep in mind, I do agree that we did circumnavigate the globe, probably, man, right around the time as the how should we say, the European was just coming there up out of the how should we say, his primitive habitat, to stay
Cave
politically
awakening.
correct. There you go. Connect the dots, connect the dots. We circumnavigated the globe. Okay, fact. Also, too, we gave the world geometry, trigonometry. Okay, and then that there was a major university in this place in a place called Timbuktu, which is in ancient Mali. And you heard that old expression, hey man, I'll beat your ass from here to Timbuktu. Yes, Timbuktu really is the actual place. And it was also the home of the University of Sankore. Okay? Yeah, Sankore.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, they was in the math, man, the biosciences, man, engineering, you know what I mean? And I even think Black Lion that did a show on Benjamin Banneker one time, man, you know, who drew out the plans for Washington, D.C., also came up with the world's first almanac on the weather patterns and what have you for the farmers and what have you. And as we all know, the science of agriculture began on Alkebulan, Africa. You see what I'm saying? Kemet. You see what I'm saying? And regardless of his name, I'm talking about that continent that is due east of South America, that is due south of Europe, and that's due west of Asia. And there's only one place, man, when you do those configurations of where it would be. Now, to our critics. Well, to all the haters that came on my Facebook page and what have you, and you know, young people sell yourself into slavery. Biggest lie ever told. Now, I pulled up information here from Lerone Bennett, and to paraphrase him is that the European, and this is mainly the Dutch first, and then the Portuguese, okay, and then I think then after the Portuguese came, I believe it was the French and the British. It was kind of like the British got in on the tail end of it, but what they did was, man, that they had made so much money off of it with the lies, the deceit. You see what I mean? Because you know what's the tactic that they used that they even did here with the indigenous people of America: divide and conquer. And you heard me say this here before. I went to the Little Bighorn in Montana, black family. I went through there. I think I was traveling from Seattle to Denver. I went through the Little Bighorn. And so, you know, when you stop, you want to rest, stretch your legs, get something to eat. So I got to speaking with the indigenous people there. And I said, well, where's the Little Bighorn? They told me, you know, and they was telling me about Custer. But the question they asked me, they said, why in God's name did your people help the white man against our people? They say, and I had to tell her, I says, okay, I appreciate your question. It's a very, very valid question. But the thing is, ma'am, you have to understand is that the slave only knew what the master taught him. So when we arrived here, man, you know, through brutalizations, being branded like cattle, beat, whipped, and what have you, and then of course,
did they ever attempt to help liberate us? During those days, did they ever ride on plantations and free the?
Whoa! There you go. Now there you go, Dr. Barnes. Now there you go on that one right there. Now you got a point
I
on that.
mean, you
But
could take it a step further. You could take it a step further. They owned.
Ah,
Yeah, they
yeah,
did. They owned a
In
lot of
real
slaves.
historical,
Those
I
Native
about to say
Americans.
in real
There was a lot
context,
of those
if you
Native
think
American
about it,
tribes.
prior to the European getting here, we had conflict with somebody here on this land. And wasn't nobody for real, but us and a few other groups. So
Right.
obviously they would have been a part of it, but we had figured out a way to somewhat coexist on this land. They decided at some point in time that they wanted to take part in the things that opposition laid down that benefited them,
For
including when they
sure.
put down the Dawes rules and all of that. They accepted
right.
all of the benefits and all of that, and they kept us out to this day. You
Yeah, for
understand?
sure.
So,
And see, that's
it
another thing that a
we
lot of
ain't gonna
black
get
people don't know. They don't know that a lot of those indigenous Indian tribes own slaves themselves. And one of the main reasons that they went to war out west was because many of those tribes didn't even want to end slavery when slavery was being ended. And they had us captured
hey,
and living on those reservations and enslaving our folks as well. And black people, they be quick to say, hey, I'm Native American tribe. But nah, you was brought here as an African, enslaved by them folks as well. and they all took advantage of us as oppressors. So, the Seminoles, they decided that they wanted
Yeah,
to
for sure.
unite
And that's
with the
more
black
recent
folks.
history.
Hmm. And the
They're
Seminoles did a
For
better
sure.
job
reparated.
uniting
I'm
with
about
the
to say,
black
and that's
folks,
even
but
more.
definitely.
They're reparated. They've gotten
Yeah, I was
reparations. They
about to
made
say that's
hundreds of
more
millions off
recent.
their casinos, and we go in there and blow our whole mortgage and everything. So
Whoa, now
they,
let me tell you something about those
Hey,
casinos. Go
listen,
ahead, brother,
we
and,
don't listen.
and ask me
We
about
know
the.
we don't have no alliances for real, for real. We know
Yeah.
for real, we
And
don't
matter of
have no
fact, I was
alliances
talking to
outside of.
right here where I live at in South Carolina. They have the Catawba Indian Reservation, and I
Yeah.
had one of those Indian brothers. They come up one not too long ago, it was earlier this year. We were talking. He said, "Yeah, by the time we get 18 years old, we're getting a $30,000 purse per month, and then on top of that, they allow us to build casinos and uh, take part in agricultural projects and so forth to develop and build our territories and so forth." But I was like, yeah, man, you guys, y'all got it pretty good. But he said many of those tribes, man, they're getting upwards of $50,000 a month per person.
so
So
she doesn't have the right to
that's
ask that
crazy.
question. She doesn't have
Now
the
let me.
right to ask that question.
Okay, now let me say this here that I found out. Now, what they did was in California, right? Is that they got these tribal casinos in California as well, too. Okay, but guess who owns the casinos, gentlemen, on the tribal lands? I'll give you one guess. Your first answer is wrong. Anybody take a guess?
The white man.
Wrong. Okay, but I'm sure
Yeah.
I'm sure he's got some stake in it.
The
That
color,
Caucasian usually got his hand in it. I will tell you that. That
if
Caucasian usually
No,
got
the
his hand in it.
ones.
owned
Okay,
by.
the ones who own the casinos on that tribal land, and they're avid gamblers by their very nature. Okay. The only thing I can say, I got to say it if you don't get it this time. They're very avid gamblers. Okay, it's in their culture. So who is this group of people?
I would say the Italians, Italian
No,
mafia.
sir. No, sir.
Jews? I mean, should do Jews
No,
gamble? I don't know. I don't know.
no.
You got us on this one, Shabaka.
The Chinese.
Wow.
Okay.
The Chinese. They are
Get out of here.
avid.
I would have never
No,
guessed that one.
sir. They
Mm.
are avid gamblers. And those were the main ones I saw in them California casinos, man, as the managers and what have you. You feel me? You see what
Well, the
I'm
ones here in
saying?
Wisconsin, the Potawatomi here in Wisconsin, and we know they
Yeah.
took the land from them, but they own theirs. They got their development in the Menominee River Valley here is ridiculous. Hotel,
Oh, okay.
arena, they own it all. They get the money, they reap the benefits. And I don't know if
Okay.
it's changed, but at first when it first came about, I don't even think that they were regulated in terms of the government because it's sovereign land. So that was
Right.
all free money to them. Now, I don't know if Trump has, jumped in and said, "Now we can't let them do that." But for a very
Right.
long time, they've been living high off the hog. I don't see, as large as the Potawatomi Nation here, I don't see any initiatives to assist the Black American population here. So as
Right.
far as them questioning us about anything, I tell them to go take a walk on the freeway because they don't have a right.
Right. And then the main ones who tried to enslave us too was the Cherokee. Oh yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. The Cherokee tried to enslave us. Now get this here, people. Okay, is because somebody had said, "Hey, Shabaka, when you going to Tulsa, Oklahoma to visit the Black Wall Street?" I went and I visited the Black Wall Street, and there's a gentleman there, okay, who has a store there called 1921. So I asked him what had happened. So the gentleman says, "Well, I'll let my son tell you." 17-year-old young man, very, very knowledgeable, told the story, and just like what happened with the Black Wall Street, just like what happened with Emmett Till, just like what happened there in Rosewood. Guess what the objectivity was that caused the problem?
They just got $112 million in reparation from the mayor, the black mayor of Tulsa. They just got
Oh, they
$112
did.
million in reparations, and it's formed in grants loans that you don't have to pay back, educational programs. But yeah, they just got that in Tulsa about 3-4 months ago. They had a black mayor, and he made sure it happened. So 112 million at this point, I believe.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good thing, right?
Actually called it off, the lady before him, because when we were down there for the bicentennial march, the day after, the president, the Biden at the time, he came down there and made that reparation deal, and then they took it off the table. So I guess this person just put it back on the table, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a brother.
Yeah, for
He's the
sure,
mayor.
for sure.
He's a
And then they
brother.
had that 100-year-old lady who went in front of Congress, and they pleaded that she should receive reparations before she passed away. So I don't know if that ever happened or not. But I know one thing, that these grants and this money and stuff, most of the time it get ciphered right back into the America KKK political system some kind of way. But we definitely got to make sure that that money goes directly where it's supposed to go to, which should be the people who were directly affected by that particular genocide epidemic.
Yeah, and that's all it was genocide. And then keep in mind, though, too, folks, that I learned that was the first demonstration of what they start using in World War One and World War Two, called aerial bombing. Because they was getting up there in those prop planes, man, and then they was taking, I guess, the accelerant and fire and was dropping it from the air. You see what I mean?
Why was there no guns? Why didn't they have any guns? Why? Well, with all the wealth they accumulated, knowing the nature of the people that they were leaving, why didn't they have guns? Why? It should have been some dead white people too. And I'm not victim shaming.
They have guns. They have 50 brothers out there with shotguns that initially stopped the whole thing, and then they brought troops from like Confederate racist troops, and the I guess Richmond wasn't. Which one of them Confederate states is real close to there? Texas. Yeah. So they got Texans coming. They basically were surrounded.
Yeah, they were surrounded by a bunch of white folks. They couldn't really bat all them white folks off, and a lot of them came there just to kill white folks. But jealousy is a beast, and one of the reasons why that they burned those towns down, white people on one side of the town, when it was segregated, they would come over to the black side of town and say, "Damn, look at they stuff look really nice, man. They got it going on over there," and they got mad and jealous. And then the next thing you know, them bastards come in there trying to kill our folks just because they were disappointed the way how their part of the community look. So it's a whole lot to that. It is a whole lot to that.
I'm very, very glad that you brought that up. Okay, it's because what had happened was during the sit-in movements throughout the South, North Carolina, what have you, down there, great state of Texas, down there, good in the bud. Old Governor Rolaids himself. Okay, and old Senator Ted Cruz, who likes to drink his Corona and tell everybody to kiss his ass. But the thing is, people, is that when they start allowing us into FW Woolworths, right? Okay, so the black community says, "Oh well, now we can go spend our money downtown now." So you abandon your black entrepreneurs, you abandon your black supermarkets. You see, and quite naturally, of course, they have direct tie-in to black farmers as well too. You see, for your vegetables, for your corn, your agricultural products, also too for your stairs. You see what I mean? And
that's an interesting point too, Shabaka, because if FYI, actually Black Wall Street was actually rebuilt, and what ruined it was integration. It's just like here where we had a main strip where we shopped there because we couldn't go anywhere else. And as soon as the white man said, "No, y'all can come in our store now," we abandoned our own stores. So that was the second knockdown of Tulsa and Black Wall Street, because it actually had recovered to the point where there were black businesses late 70s and then or late 60s, and then when they said, "Y'all can shop with the white man," that's just like the bus. We stopped riding the bus because they said you can't sit in the front. Instead of forming our own bus, as soon as they said y'all can ride in the front, now we went right back to them. So we always just like run back, you know what I'm saying?
That's right. That's right. We thought the grass was greener on the other side, so we went on over there and start giving our money up to them. But yeah, they never came. They never came shop with us. They never came shopped in the black communities, but that's a part of gentrification. That's how it works. You know, they get in, they pull your resources into theirs, and now we're kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place, even in this day and time. You know, you can hardly go anywhere without no black businesses are established to the point to where it really makes a difference in our community. Always having to go to them for a job opportunity,
Right.
always having to go shop with these folks, and that's one of the things when you give up your self-determination that happens. It happens
Absolutely.
a lot with a
Absolutely.
whole lot of
I
people.
agree with that. I definitely
Yeah,
agree with that.
Sounds
And
like
listening
absolutely.
to the
sounds
brother,
like family
every
assimilation.
right,
Exactly.
right. And we're
Now,
so
That's right,
eager to
simulation.
allow people to come into our communities. You got to
No, we're
understand, we are this like a economic hit. Caucasians have been hitting us in every realm, other than this. When we ain't, they have never fought us directly in war. Never.
right.
It's like a camouflage and a concealed tactics that they have been using on us since the annals of time. And now we got to get even with them. And this is K. DeWalt, New Black Panther Party Mid-Atlantic Division, speaking.
Okay, Mr. DeWall, and thank you. And then I'm gonna boss up on what you was just saying there, sir. Okay. It's a known fact, black family, that don't nobody spend money like black people do. Now, you heard me, Dr. Barnes and Black Line heard me say is that with Trump getting rid of the DEI, that was the best damn thing that could happen because that there is where he's lowered his left hand. We can come with the right cross of building up our own industries, putting our own people to work. You see what I'm saying? Because we got a whole lot of qualified talent out here. I mean, look at, oh man, the list goes on, man. Dr. George Washington Carver, man, Benjamin Banneker, the brother who, the real McCoy, man, who made that oil lubricating device
Insane.
for the trains, during the railroad era. And then keep in mind is that they talk about the Chinese. Well, they built the Union Pacific Railroad all across the country. Now they only went from San Francisco, I think, to about Utah, where they laid the Golden Spike in Provo, Utah, that joined the east to the west. But here's one thing they don't talk to you about. We all know the legend of John Henry, right? Okay. It was black folk that built that Southern Pacific Railroad all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, into downtown Los Angeles. See, they don't tell us that part. You see what I'm saying? And then, not to mention, is that we had a lot of black commerce and we had a black banker who was well known. You could pull this up here, Dr. Barnes, by the name of William Leadersdorf. He was California's first black banker. And in downtown San Francisco, only the street is only like about 2 blocks long and only about 10 feet wide. Okay, it's called Leadersdorf Street. Now, let me tell you what happened with Mr. Leadersdorf. He goes up there, marries him a blonde girl, moves out there to Folsom, California. Now, keep in mind is that Folsom is a city, and it's not just home to one of the worst penitentiaries in the United States, Folsom Prison. Okay, and there was a lot of land out there, farmland out there. So what had happened was Leadersdorf had married this white woman. She divorced him, got all the land, and I think Mr. Leadersdorf, man, died stone cold, flat, busted. I may be wrong on. Yes, sir.
First of all, I'd like to say I respect the platform. Peace to all the brothers on here. We all sound like we're of a certain age. But when I start to talk about what we're dealing with right now, my biggest question is the future. Because we got to look
Okay.
at our young black males right now. And I don't know, here in Milwaukee, which is 44% black, I know people think there's no black people in Milwaukee. Ha, ha, ha,
Right.
right? We have a public school system with a $1.5 billion budget, and it also has a 50% truancy rate for our kids. Our
Wow.
literacy rates for our youngsters are very low. So in terms of the future, because all of us got a date, right? I got more time behind me than I do in front, to be honest with you.
Oh, yes,
And
sir.
I'm worried about how this moves forward because our young people right now have spurned education, have spurned structure. Our young men are not disciplined. And I know the conversation becomes circular when we start to talk about, well, whose fault is it? Oh, it's the single mothers, it's the black mothers. but it's something that we got to really get together and figure out what we're gonna do about these young brothers, man. We just had Summerfest here, which is the largest musical festival in the country, been going on for 50 years. It was poisoned by multiple 30 to 40 people brawls, and these are all youngsters. We
Oh
got
yeah.
14-year-olds. 6 police officers have been murdered in Milwaukee since 2018. We've had 3 shot this year, 1 deceased. And the suspects, 14, 15, 16, 19, 21, we got 90 homicides. And most of them
Wow.
are youngsters. So I want to know, and from the brothers as a think tank, what are we going to do about these young brothers, man? Because one of them going to have to step up and lead something. And right now,
Okay.
they're just disillusioned. And I don't know if it's culture. I don't know if it's the fact that, systematically they removed us as black men from the family structure, but it's
Right.
out of control. So we got to figure out what we're going to do about the next generation, because we
Ah,
got the knowledge, but they got the legs, right? So
yes.
we got to figure out what we're going to do about these brothers.
Okay, now tell me what you think about this here. Now listen to an old guy. Okay. It's the entertainment industry out there in Hollywood, okay? And Hollywood is a section, repeat, a section of the city of Los Angeles. So what it is that if those out there, if they're able to pull their resources and change the imagery of the black male in Hollywood, okay? It's because at first during the 1930s in early Hollywood, step it, fetch it, singing and dancing, ass scratching, yassa bossing. You know what I'm saying? Then what had happened was, in the 1950s, they made a movie called Carmen Jones with Dorothy Dandridge that was made by a white man by the name of Otto Preminger. Okay. Then what had happened was that Hollywood had started taking a nosedive. But what came and saved Hollywood was the black exploitation. Yeah, the
Yes.
black exploitation films where you got Shaft, the Coffee, the Mac, Superfly, all that. But one thing, dag nabbit, and I will always really hold this woman in the highest of honor who did not partake in that crap, was the only one, Miss Cicely Tyson, who was married to Miles Davis, okay, and she had did Sounder, and she talks about in her book, Just As I Am, where she had stated when she was on a set of Sounder, out there in Hollywood, L.A., she was talking about that one of these white movie producers walks past her, says in her presence, well, excuse the expression, niggas love violence, drugs, and gangs, and we plan to give them a belly full. And then, just like a former co-host that we had has stated, I'm not going to say his name, but it was the black exploitation movies that saved the filmmaking industry of Hollywood. Now, okay, what has happened is as black wealth was getting accumulated, they got to pool those resources and start their own production companies. Now, let's look at Robert Johnson. We all know who Robert Johnson was, the one that that brought you BET. So what does he do? He takes BET, sells it for $2 billion to Paramount, right?
Right, a
So
Jewish conglomerate.
yes, sir. And then he goes up there, figures that he's gonna buy. Yeah, and he figures that he's gonna go buy United Airlines, and he comes up there, knock on United Airlines' door, skinning and grinning. Hey, how you doing, boss? I got $2 billion. And they looked at him and said, hey man, check this out. Why don't you get your ass up out of here, man, before we call security? Okay. Now
His wife also divorced him and knocked him out that $1 billion range too, though. So that kind of put a
yes.
dampen on that plan.
That's right. That's
Oh,
right.
yes,
She
sir.
got a pretty nice resort up there in Middleburg, Virginia, as well.
Oh, okay, okay. Now here's
Yeah.
something else
No
for you,
more
gentlemen.
United Airlines for you, buddy.
Yeah. Now here's something here for you too, gentlemen. They did the same damn thing in Hollywood just about 8 months ago. There's a guy out of Atlanta. Okay, a big dude. He goes knock on the door up there to Paramount Pictures. Hey man, I'm buying in the Paramount. They said, no, you ain't. You better go keep your dress on, man. Man, you ain't getting none of this. You know what I mean? And you know who I'm talking about. And these are three major studios, black family, that started was Paramount, 1912, Warner Brothers, 1912, and Universal around 1912. You pretty much figure, gentlemen, between 1909 to about 1918 is where they started the movie studios out there. It's because Nickelodeon, okay, was a thing at Coney Island in New York where you rotated all these cards, and make kind of like a little film, right? So somebody came up with, man, let's try to make this here with film. So they tried to do it in New York, 1905, 1906. They says, you know what, man, this damn place gets too much snow out here. Ah, but there's this place in California called Los Angeles, translated from Spanish to English means the angels. So they go out there into an area like Beverly Hills, okay, Hollywood, North Hollywood, and what have you. Oh man, Topanga Canyon. Let's see, what else? Bel Air, Benedict Canyon, and all that. And all that land was owned by a black woman. Okay. And I would imagine that the ones who enslaved their ancestors were the Spanishes, because as you do know, California, Arizona, Nevada used to be part of Mexico. And when you go over there to one of those Metro Rail stations there in North Hollywood, they got the site of where they signed the treaty ending the war in 1847 between the United States and Mexico. Now, on the flag, the state flag of California says California Republic, because California used to be its own country for about a year. But guess what they discovered in 1848 up there at Sutter's Mill? And you heard me mention this, Dynamite, and also too, Dr. Barnes. They discovered gold and up down in there hill. Okay, so that's
So how many Native Americans murdered black people who were trying to head west? Are they questioning us when we went on their land? The black man with his family in the wagon, they probably murdered him too. They have no right to question us.
Yes, sir.
But
Now,
Shabaka, I want to say this. Culturally, I grew up during the crack epidemic. I grew up with the gangster rap, the NWA, the Ghetto Boys, the Too Short, when it really went crazy, right? And our communities was crazy. But we, as a generation, Gen Xers, we did know how to read. We did know how to do what my mom used to call arithmetic. See, my mother in our neighborhood, you just could not go to school, or you wouldn't have had nowhere to live. We, like I said, 50% truancy rate here amongst young black males. So I can see where culture is a negative influence. But this problem is self-inflicted wound. We have lost control of our children. Our children are out here wilding the fuck out. Excuse my French. I didn't mean to.
No, it's all good.
They are going and they are totally against, even when we try to impart knowledge and wisdom on them. They don't want it. I taught public school. I coached high school football for 13 years. I've been a mentor. I've worked all kinds of Boys and Girls Club, every kind of program you can think of to help young black males. I watched so many of them walk away from opportunity when it was in their face. Like, all you got to do, bro, is just come here every day, sign in, and be in this program. You're going to get a job. You're going to be straight. He'd rather go to the block. He'd rather roll a backwood. He'd rather wear some tight-ass pants and a hoodie in 95-degree weather and do the most antisocial type shit that I can possibly dream of. So that's why I keep saying I'm so concerned about this. Like, my father was a Southerner. My parents were Jim Crow, from the Jim Crow South in Mississippi. They picked cotton. Those kinds of males, like even in that group, they was hardcore with us about being a man and being accountable and being able to accept responsibility. So we were different. We might have made some mistakes, but we all came to our senses and said, nah, man, I got to get it together. I don't see that imparted in our community. Black family reunions are down 47%. Black people always would have family reunions no more.
Yeah.
So it's something going on with us, and I'm more interested in trying to figure out what can we do to correct ourselves, because obviously we're losing. We're losing economically, we're losing politically, we're losing culturally, because they own our culture now. So they dictate the messages. So
I agree, brother.
We watching.
I agree, brother.
We watching. And if you we're celebrating. Right, I'm looking at big meats. I'm like, how are we celebrating a dude who has admitted to putting metric tons of crack cocaine into our community?
Yeah.
For 10, 12 years. And he's a hero. You know what I'm saying?
Well, if you're a generation, well, if you were born in 1965 and a part of Generation X like we are, we grew up under a different indoctrination. And you also have to look at the fact that we were the first generation that was integrated into white society as well. And over the years, with our brothers and sisters that we have today, that Gen Y and Z, they've been
Millennial.
heavily indoctrinated. Yeah, those millennials, they've been heavily indoctrinated by a new system of anti-socialism that is being fostered by the oppressors that that we've always been under. But somehow they've been able to get into their heads, and they don't want to listen to our generation because they don't think we know as much as they do. But you also have to look at the fact that technology has also changed the social well-being of of this generation as well. These devices that we're on, they rarely ever talk to each other. Most of the time, they're texting each other. They get offended by some texts that somebody made. You know, back in the day, if we would scrap somebody, we would have to hear that person say this or that to us, and then we'd go on and duke it out and stuff. But their skin is very soft as well. They have some soft skin, and they get offended very easily. So it's going to start with the household, but it's also going to have to start with a black revolution where we're going to have to wean out the good and the bad in the black community as well. Those individuals are more geared towards Afrocentric way of being, getting back to our way of life as being a united people. Some of those folks don't want to be united. We got a whole bunch of brothers and sisters today. They got snow bunnies and they got Bill, Bob, and Craig on their arms now, and they feel like the times are totally different because they're dissocialized with what the reality is and what's really going on. Blinded by capitalism. That's one of the things. It's about the money all the time, but no black faces on this money that we exchange with one another. And then at the same time too, where we used to have like a hyper masculine society, this society shuns being hyper masculine. They want a soft feminine male who is able to cow down and step and fetch it for these white crackers the way that they can feel, so that they can feel comfortable. And this is something that we got to get into our young boys' heads again. We got to grab these young boys and take them into a rites of passage, and our young ladies need to be taken into a rites of passage as well. We've gotten away from a lot of that stuff that our ancestors, that our grandparents and our parents were able to pass down to us. They don't have that because we got integrated, and they're now indoctrinated with what's happening, what's the latest and the hottest thing going on with white folks. And that's something we got to definitely get them involved in, helping them to learn more about what their history consists of. Because we don't, when I was growing up, I at least had my grandparents, you know, if we brought some white person or a white girl home, you better get that white heifer up out of here. You can get in trouble for that. You know what I'm saying? They ain't get down with that type of stuff, you know. And the same type of discussions that our grandparents and our parents used to have with us about that kind of stuff, that racial stuff, we got to get back to that with our young kids today. And that's what they're not learning in school neither. They keep a lot of our history away from them.
Sound like we need delineation to me. Sound like we need to self-identify. Sound like we need to circle the wagon.
Yeah, we do. We do. And we need to start getting a separation plan in place as well. You know, a lot of folks, man, when you start talking about, well, what we gonna do if we separate? Where we gonna go? What we gonna do? You know, it's a lot that we can do, and that's a part of being self-determined. Matter of fact, after slavery ended, we have not had a chance to really get ourselves healed as a collective people. You know, we have not had a chance, opportunity to heal. We need at least 60 years minimum to get our minds right, being amongst each other, unifying, but also understanding, getting back to our Kemetic African roots, so that we can heal ourselves properly, and then we can come back into socialization with everybody else. Black power.
Okay. Always. Now, if I may emphasize on something that here, because I've noticed in some of the chats here in the chat room, okay, from Black Joe and what have you, and things of that nature right there, right? Now, let's see. According to Black Joe right here, was a military invasion with new technology and African slaves. People were here and enslaved as POWs. Now, Black Joe, I respect your wisdom. There was something that I came upon where it was off the continent, and it stated that there were a whole lot of our people on the continent trying to go up to these slave ships to recover their loved ones, but they don't want us to have that knowledge. Now, not knocking nobody's wisdom or opinion or what have you, because we all are men here, okay? Now, also, too, Joe, you were stating that you know too many Olmec Negroes, and that's South America. Okay, now, Joe, as we do know, one of the greatest slave ports in South America was that of Brazil, okay, from the Portuguese, and then, of course, the Spanish. Yes, sir, go ahead.
I mean, don't you see how many Mexicans came across the border under the Biden administration?
Yes, sir.
That to immigrate from down south up here up north is to get away from the southern heat. I get what you're saying about that whole slave port thing, but wasn't no engines to run these boats. It would be more effective to cross the land masses than it would to depend on slave ships to bring all these Olmec Negroes here to North America, to North America. That's all I'm saying. It makes sense on the Dutch invasion on the Gulf of Mexico and the East Coast. Nobody's going to come from the West Coast because of China and Hawaii. They're not military folk, unlike the Dutch and the British and the Spanish.
And the French, okay, who were the most brutal of the slave traders. Now, I got a question, okay? The former co-host that I used to do this with, who is no longer with us, nor will he be back, I asked this question. Okay, I've traveled in all parts of the Western United States, right? But why is it that the black woman is the only one that has that C curve that I see predominantly, man, on the sisters from Ethiopia, from Ghana, okay, from Mali and the Cameroon, okay? But these other women, man, they flattered in washboards. Can somebody shed some light on that one?
I mean, the Negrito Mexican has the same. The Negrito female Mexican, the dark female Mexican in Spanish has the same build. That's a melanin thing, and what they call it? It's a bone structure thing, but in the same phenotype thing. But in the same breath, when you get to the jaw structure and the forehead line, the phenotypes are totally different. It's the same way Jews are white until they not. It's the same thing.
Okay.
And you can go to Virginia. You can go to Virginia because Virginia became one of the main slave ports for America, in which they were bringing those slaves in Virginia. There are some beautiful women in Virginia, and that whole the Geechees, all those Eastern where we came in at. You talk about Ethiopia. There's some sisters out there that, man, I'm talking about wicked, right? I mean, like those sisters. But what we're talking about genetics, we go all the way back to Sarah Bartman with the big boobs. Like black women have always had big boobs.
Glad
right?
you brought up Sarah Bartman there, Dr. Barnes, and I'm gonna tell you why. Okay, Sarah Bartman is that, you know, she died of disease because they would have all these white men want to go up there and violate her, right?
Yeah.
Now, which is a common practice, okay, in Los Angeles, okay. How many of our people, mainly our women, had went out there to Southern California where you got to do these auditions in these certain type of movies, if you know what I mean, where they got 3 and 4 white guys on them. You see what I'm saying? And that's why that Weinstein, man, I can't wait till they bring his ass to California and have him face that, because if anybody ever saw the motion picture Black Panther, Lupita Nyong'o was one of these victims of that Weinstein madness. And she was the one
who... white dude right now. She right now married to a white dude.
Oh, how sad.
That Weinstein thing is a dead herring, man. They caught the women up online on him. So that's a dead herring.
And Epstein, Trump just killed Epstein today, so it won't be no talk of the rich people who partook in the nationwide sex trafficking conspiracy. Trump just protected all these rich motherfuckers because he said, man, what he asked the reporter today, you still talking about Weinstein? I mean, Epstein? We thought it was going to be an Epstein list. What happened to that?
Came out Weinstein.
I'm talking about Epstein.
No, I'm saying, but it came out Weinstein is a damn eunuch. He's smooth. and the women were in court describing his genitalia the whole time. What genitalia?
Damn. So they was saying old boy wasn't packing nothing. Wow.
No, the women are in court describing, giving vivid details of his jump. Whole time he ain't got no jump.
Now somebody
I was just saying that Trump has already eliminated the because Weinstein is one thing, but I think Epstein, because he's a money man, and there was a lot of his list would have had a lot of our favorite Negroes on it too. And by them dismissing that, you answer me this: if there's no list, he didn't have a client list, and he wasn't murdered. Why is Jillian still? Why is she incarcerated? She was his bottom broad, right? So she know that what she was supposed to give up crucial information too. Trump just said, "No, because I own some of them pictures. That shit ain't gonna
Yeah.
fly."
That's a big cover up. That's a big cover up by the rich and the wealthy. And that's another thing. That porno industry, along with all the other entertainment and media industry, is owned by Jewish people. The Jewish people, the Jewish race controls the porn industry.
Okay, hold on. And to prove your
Same
point
reason.
further, that porn industry, man, most of those flicks are produced in the San Fernando Valley.
But Epstein is the same reason that Diddy ain't dead and Diddy ain't going to jail for the rest of his life. You kill him and the tapes come out. Like, just looking at different Diddy parties, it's too many politicians and celebrities that was there. When his trial first started, it was said that J-Lo was performing acts, hearing state secrets on certain politicians, and they ain't said nothing else about that.
Okay, can I say this here,
That
gentlemen?
is the weakest RICO case I've ever seen in my life. That was a waste of government resources. That was the weakest RICO case ever against Diddy. Come on, man. Go ahead, Shabaka.
They had him open and shut on the dope case. So that was my whole thing. They had him 40 years easily on dope trafficking, but they chose to humiliate him. So
Okay, now check this out. There was a film clip that I saw, gentlemen, from about the early 1950s, and it was Marlon Brando, the same dude that played Don Corleone, One-Eyed Jacks, Marlon Brando.
That's Richard Pryor's boyfriend. That's Richard Pryor's boyfriend.
Okay, now get this here. He said in this clip, he says, it takes 6 guys to carry a man to his grave, and it only takes 1 woman to put him there. Was he lying?
Ask Robert Johnson. Ask Robert Johnson.
Okay, you talking about the former BET?
Right, we just said that divorce kicked his ass out the BET.
Okay. Now, another thing too is that we're gonna have to use this here with kid gloves. Is that black bourgeoisie and a black boule, because they were on the puppet strings of the white power structure to keep us in line. You see, we are loved for being ignorant, but hated if we are militant. And then people over the years, I've been up on him, man. You should see the hate mail that I get. You know what I'm saying? So what I do now is delete and block. You know what I'm saying? And then also too, we all love sports. Okay, now Black Joe, nobody wants to go against the gatekeeping boule. Do we will continue to run in place? Yeah, do we continue to run in place? Okay, and then, as Joe says here, white supremacy on autopilot because of the boule sheepdog gatekeeping Negroes. Okay, I've had a lot of.
Well, the boule has lost their power because our black congressional caucus has lost their power. So that's what that was their power. They had the black congressional caucus. You haven't heard anything from them throughout this Trump thing. They have been stripped of all responsibilities and power. So the boule,
they killed reparations in California. They sold out Californians for immigrants for housing. The immigrants got over $250 million in housing, while Negroes was gonna get $5,000 per head for reparations in California. The Green Party sold them out. The Congressional Black Caucus sold them out. Some of everybody sold them out, and the immigrants still got their housing. The illegal immigrants still got their housing. So, I
mean, we got ours too. We live in the project. That's our shit. We claim the project.
Yeah, but you paying for the projects. The state paying for them though. It's a difference.
Well, I used to work for the housing development here in Milwaukee, one of the most notorious housing projects, the Hillside Housing, and I encountered a lot of black people who were second and third generation residents who who would tell me, and I was a job coach, I was a job creator, and I would present them with job opportunities, and they would tell me, I don't want no job because it's gonna raise my rent. My grandmother was here, I was raised here, my mother was here, I got 3 brothers here. They don't want to leave that shit. So it's just like, okay, we can complain about what the immigrants got, but are we taking advantage of what we've gotten? We have community development block grant money, which is $25 million federally allocated to the development of the infrastructure of the underserved, impoverished community. We have allowed our mayor and our governor and our county executive to take some of that money to patch up homes in their deficits, countywide, citywide. So the money's there. We're just not taking advantage of it. I don't want to upset nobody, but I'm just saying, if we really focus, we could be taking advantage of a lot of these little loopholes. That's what white people do. They play dirty. Why we're not playing dirty? Why we don't have black lobbyists? Why we don't have black
because
special
nobody's holding the Negro gatekeepers accountable. That's why it's the same issue. It's the same thing because nobody's holding these Negro gatekeepers accountable. Nobody's holding their handlers accountable. But you got to hold them accountable first. So until then, it's running place. Get on that treadmill, cut it up on high.
That's right, because that Congressional Black Caucus, they hadn't done a damn thing since the 1960s, and they just been sitting up there going to galas and parties and taking pictures with the white elitists, and none of them done nothing. The same way with the African Union. That's the same thing with the African Union in Africa right now.
And if you fall in with them to try to get some of that money, well, your kid might be down the rainbow flag. So what's that for?
Okay, now let me ask you this here, okay, because we're here at 1:45 minutes, okay? All right, and appreciate everybody coming in. This part I saved for last, and we need to get some feedback on this brother here. He's a young man. He's only 36 years old. President Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso.
Protect that brother. And you know how I feel, Shabaka. They need to protect that brother, man. Between the Russians, the Chinese, and the Americans, man, protect that brother, man. Shoot.
Now, the cold part about it is that he had stated that he is picking up where an elder of his, Thomas Sankor, had left off at. Now, I'm going to tell you something. When I was a young man, about 27 years old, I'm thinking, I was going to work one morning and I picked up, the morning newspaper, which case was the Los Angeles Times. And on the headline, it had right there, Thomas Sankara assassinated. You know what I mean? And then the cold part about it is like what Ibrahim Traore is saying is that, yeah, we taking control of our own gold. He says it's very, very interesting of how all these raw materials, okay, somebody's got some background noise, so I'm going to ask whoever's got that background noise, to go on self-mute for a minute. Okay. And he was saying is that yeah, we need people from the U.S., Africans in America to come here to the U.S. and start doing some building, right? Now, I got into an argument with the former co-host of Shabaka's Black Experience, and hence I'm not going to say his name because he won't be back. Okay. And I was trying to show him as that what he is talking about is controlling the gold, controlling the diamonds, all the precious metals out there, and he's charging them, he's raising his rates on coming to get his raw resources, right? But he says, but you're not going to come in here and you're not going to exploit nothing. You see what I mean? So quite naturally, of course, there was hating on him. And then, of course, and there's one thing too, black people. Why does white supremacy always got its Negro tools up there? Like, look at Langley, okay? Langley goes up there, talks bad about Traore. Look at Julius Malema. You see what I'm saying? And then to prove your point, Dr. Barnes, what you said earlier, that Trump is telling the Boers in South Africa that they can come and own farmland here. Now let's look at Zimbabwe before President Mugabe had passed away. Okay, the capital city of Harare. He was the Boulet's been longer than that, Black Joe. Okay, and then Mugabe says that yeah, you guys are talking about having a book fair here. So they wanted to have a book fair in Harare, which was the capital of Zimbabwe, right? So then what had happened was the alphabetized agenda comes over there, And President Mugabe said, "Hey, no, 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 you can't do that here." Okay, so why don't you guys take that there to New York, take it to London, take it to San Francisco, but you're not going to do that here. Now, there was one brother,
Hey, Shabaka,
sir.
I love where you're going, but I want to say this: we've left out one instrumental person,
Who is
one
that?
individual, Patrice Lumumba. Patrice Lumumba. Patrice
Yes,
Lumumba
yes, yes, yes.
he was going to stabilize the Congo. He
Yeah,
was coming with the United States of Africa. The
right,
CIA and the United States government conspired to murder him. So that's what's going to
right,
happen to any young African leader who comes up now and makes noise. And if you think about it, if you research Patrice Lumumba, you know what I'm saying? You listen at what he was saying. Now, what happened later? The Congo went crazy, right? And then the
yeah.
Zulus and the Tutsis, right? And so, how many
Okay, no,
people,
no,
how
no.
many
The
children?
Zulus are
It got to the
in
point you had warlords just
you talk
that's
about
South Africa,
Rwanda.
right? But in the Congo,
No, 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 no,
well,
no,
I'm talking
no.
about the
South
Congo.
Africa is yeah, okay, that's Central Africa. And that there, I forgot who
Right.
you
No, that's
had
cool.
over
That's
there,
cool.
man.
I may have misstepped on that, but my focus is Patrice because I mean my brother Mr. Patrice Lumumba because he had centralized the Congo. And if you look in the 80s
Right,
and the 90s, the most uncontrollable, unstable part of Africa was the Congo, right?
right,
But they conspired to kill the individual who would have made the Congo a power. He would have centralized all those tribes. I believe that's
right.
Central Africa, correct?
Yes, sir. That
Yes, it
is
is.
correct.
The
Okay.
DRC.
Yeah.
Right. So now South Africa doesn't happen if Patrice Lumumba stays alive, because that would have been a
Hmm.
part of the United States of Africa. They would have
Hmm.
centralized their military and pooled their resources to fight that off. So I'm
Hmm.
just saying there's so many key figures in terms of where we could have went left, but we went right because there was a systematic murder. If we look at Chicago, the chairman,
Yeah.
Fred Hampton,
Yeah.
Chicago would not be like it is had they not conspired to murder Fred Hampton,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And he
talk
was
about
only
there were leaders
21
in
years
place. There
old.
were people who would come
Yeah, well, you know what? We're a new breed leader, African generation, and those things
Evers
have taken.
all the way up to Martin Luther King to Chairman Fred Hampton. I've interviewed Chairman Fred Hampton's son, Fred Hampton Jr. He still operates the Panther Cubs, right? So, and the ideology of the Panthers, and Shabaka, you know me and you go over and over it about the
Right.
ideology of the Panthers, Huey P. Newton from
Right.
Oakland, California, right? So we
Right.
talk about that. But any of these brothers who come up that's gonna say, hey man, we got to unify the people and get it together, they systematically murder them. They
Yeah, they
just
do.
proved the conspiracy between the United States government and the CIA to murder Patrice Lumumba. They're still nobody says anything about that.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
want to say the brother's name, man. Y'all, man, peace and love, man.
yeah, for sure. But thank you for that, brother. And you know, you're in my alleyway right now because I'm the ambassador to Imo State, Nigeria, and I've been with them since 2023, elected under the president Tinubu. And my concentration is Africa and bridging the gap between our brothers and sisters here in the African diaspora, especially here in the States with our brothers and sisters on the continent. And as a part of CEO, producer, member with the New Africa Network, we broadcast live out of Ethiopia. Every time we get some very important news to relay, we're able to bridge that gap with the information that we're able to simulate. But for us as a new breed leader, African generation, standing behind Ibrahim Traore, this is the best thing that we can do from the United States right now. And we have to put pressure on this government to say, if anything happened to that brother, we're going to be ready to ride on America KKK ass if something happened to him. We have to stand up and be forceful. And we also have to be able to put, draw a red line in the sand, let them know if you cross this line as a part of attacking our new breed leader, African generation leaders, then there's going to be some repercussions coming from us as well. And the CIA, they bleed just like we do. We can attack just like they can attack. The propaganda that they put out, we can put propaganda out, anti-propaganda to go against them as well. But we also have to be vigilant and also stand up when it's time to stand up and start laying back. Like I said, our people, we've been too comfortable for way too long. We need a black revolution for real. And that is long overdue in this nation right now. Right now, our whole nation is at the state of an emergency. We
That
need an
part.
address on the state of a black, on the state of the black nation. Right now, our GDP, our ownership in this nation is only 1.5%, which is the same as the ownership of our ancestors coming out of slavery in 1865. That don't make no sense. Not as long as
Yeah.
we've been here right now. We got many black families that are struggling all across this nation, trying to figure out how to make ends meet. And basically, with the revolution that is taking place in Africa right now, and especially amongst the Francophone nations, is because of Dr. Erica Turin-Beraquar. She was the first person to come out in, I would say, more than 60 years to address the problems that Africa has been having, and especially with the continuous exploitation of both the people, the lands, and the resources there. And,
Right.
if we can forge our relationship with those brothers and sisters who are asserting their independence and self-determination, those nations like Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, those nations right there have the most valuable resources, and as
Right.
well as the Congo, the most valuable resources in the
Right.
in Africa. We can form business relationships with them to say, hey, you know what?
Right.
We're here in America struggling. Why not allow us to create CEO, NGO establishments where we're able to take those resources and make these white folks come through Black America in order to get access to that stuff. Because what's happening now, at one point in time, they was just going over there pillaging and plundering like they always do. They're always robbing and stealing. They just, matter of fact,
Right.
they just had found some Chinese over there smuggling gold out of Ghana last week and
Mhm.
had to convict them for doing the stuff because they've been doing it for a long time, putting them in
That's
those
right.
containers and not even registering how
Right.
they mine lithium, how they mine uranium. So
Uh-huh.
one of the
All the shit
policies that
you
we
need for your laptops and cell phones.
that's right. That's right. And we need to put some pressure on them, on our folks here to say, hey, look, you need to start approaching, especially these big CEOs of these companies that are with Sony and all these places where they're
Uh-huh.
manufacturing, doing, and say, hey, look, you go through Black folks now to get resources out of Africa. That will help
Uh-huh.
bring us up here in the United States as well. It would also
Okay.
offer more job opportunities for us to be engaged and enlightened with, and take back and take back what's rightfully ours. Africa is for the Black man. Africa is for Africans, and that's
That's
what
what
we need to
Gaddafi
start getting
said.
back on. That's what's
Yeah,
up.
that's what
Yep,
Gaddafi said. You see,
that's
because
right.
Gaddafi, they killed him. You know what I'm saying? Okay, now Black Joe has here in the chat room, while Pan-Africanism is a popular ideology aiming for unity and cooperation amongst people of African descent, some Africans express skepticism or outright opposition to it. Okay, man, see, they'll be your neo-colonialists. Okay, this sentiment arises from various factors, including perceived shortcomings in its implementation, historical grievances, and oh man, you're going too fast, Joe. I was up here reading, man. And the complexities of diverse African identities. Okay, okay. All right, Joe. The reasons for African descent or opposition to Pan Africanism, historical grievances, and perceived inequalities. Some Africans, particularly those in regions with historical conflicts or perceived marginalization, may view Pan-Africanism as a tool for domination by certain groups or nations. Okay, now Black Joe, I see your reasoning right there, and I'm going to unmute your mic, but you got to keep in mind, too, brother, as you already know, a lot of this shit, man, is being manipulated, man, by these neo-colonialists who are still on the puppet strings of the colonialists. Okay, brother, do you care to elaborate on that? Now, Dr. Marimba Ani, a student of the one and only Dr. John Henry Clark. Huh?
You say elaborate on it?
Oh, okay, okay. Well, say that again there, Joe. Okay, because I was reading your
I could
comment.
just say I wouldn't. I was still posting stuff from that article. I'm just gonna say it like this: what progress has Pan Africanism made us since the 1960s?
Okay, that part. What had happened was they saw the progress that was being made, right? So what had happened was, man, when you had the Black Empowerment era, man, that's why they came and crushed it. You see, from the
So
outside forces. Yeah, go ahead.
what racial slurs do we have for Africans, Haitians, or Caribbeans?
Racial slurs?
Yeah, Akata, Jareer.
Okay, now.
Right. That's my
Okay,
point. See, my point is that yes, people over here in America, black folk in particular, have been Negro penalized, but those Africans over there have been colonized to the point
right,
where they really you will find pockets, of riders, and I mess with the riders, but
right.
the riders don't outnumber the anti-pan African. Like Burkina Faso is surrounded by African countries that are anti-Pan Africanist.
Okay, okay, okay,
Well, most of
okay.
those, most of those are English speaking nations now. But
All
the
right,
English,
But they're still
some of the
would
English
be the
species,
critics.
some of the English speaking nations are starting to get on the bandwagon now because they see the conflicts of interest and knowing that
Okay.
they Mali and the rest of them. Like at first, Ghana was supposed to go in. It had the United States had told Ghana, y'all need to go talk to Burkina Faso and do something about that. And then Burkina Faso got with Niger, Mali, and the rest of those francophone nations. They got
Okay.
outnumbered, so they backed down. They say, you know what, we need to just go on and chill out. And then now we're looking
the
at trying to join forces with them now.
the
Okay.
issue. The issue is if this was coming from Chinese, Russians, or Americans, okay. But knowing that these folk look just like Traore and that they didn't try to assassinate him several times, it's not okay. I'm saying this is the equivalent of the Negro Boule gatekeepers keeping us in this position that we've been in for the last 50 years. We ain't been able to move up. We ain't been able to progress. We ain't been able to get a strong political party. Why? Not because of white folk. White folk on autopilot. It is these sheepdog, lapdog, gatekeeping Negroes that's taking grants and loans while at the same time telling you, don't mess with white people. Don't take them loans. Don't take them grants. It's the government. See
Okay.
the game that's being played?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
same game that's being played on us is
that's
being,
the same thing with the character on Django with Steven. Same thing.
Oh
and it's
yeah.
the same game that's being played on Traore over there with Russian weapons.
Yeah, now, see, now that was another thing that I was going to mention about it right there. I mean, so my standpoint is I'm kind of at a nexus point. Okay, I can see it in theory, but at the same token, man, you're going on the puppet strings of these Russians. Now, the
Yeah.
thing is, you have to
Well,
look at the
sometimes you got to
fact.
get with the enemy of your enemy in order for you to build up as well. You know,
Okay,
you can't go to a gunfight with a knife. And if you don't
right.
have the weapons to defend yourself, sometimes you got to get with the enemy of your enemy so that you can build your forces up. And then if you decide to break away, you have a conflict of interest between the two of y'all, then you decide to go separate your own ways. But I think as a military strategist, I believe Abraham is very well trained. He knows what the game is. Only thing he needs is the backing from both us here in the African diaspora and those on the continent to make his situation work. So if one African nation come up to the full aspects of this of what it could do, I believe the rest of us can come up with it at the same time.
Okay, okay. Now that there is a fair assessment on that there, brother, and I meet you halfway on that. Now, keep in
Hey,
mind,
brother Pete, get in there too, brother.
huh?
Brother Pete was trying to say something also.
Okay. Go ahead, brother Pete. Yeah, go ahead. Where's brother Pete at?
I'm right here.
Oh, okay. You on the phone? Okay. What's on your mind, brother Pete? Okay, it's always a pleasure having you.
Y'all just keep going and going and going. Okay. I'm first off, all power to the people.
Absolutely.
I've been listening to you brothers speak. I've been listening to you brothers talk. Okay. Those of you that don't know me, I'm an original member of the original Black Panther Party.
Salute.
You're not the new Black Panther Party. I've been hearing y'all talk about the problem, but I've yet to hear y'all talk about the solution. I hear you talk about revolution, but revolution is the solution. Now, how you going to go creating that solution? Akina Father.
Yeah.
Well, you finish, please. Akina Father. Gold is not the resource that this brother is trying to demonstrate to everybody. Gold is not what he's trying to get everybody to understand. He's trying to get people to understand the ideology of the way he thinks and what he's trying to do. If you create more of him, then he's protected. You know, you you heard the saying, you can kill the body, but you can't kill the mind. You might be able to do away with the how let's say it, because I need to paraphrase it. I'm trying to say it correctly.
You can kill a person, but you can't kill a revolution.
The ideology is going to stay. The ideology is always going to be there. You know, like I said before, I hear you brothers talking deep about the problem. Now, let's do a 360 and start talking about the solutions, because these problems are not going to help this 3-year-old child that live next door to me that's going to be there when I'm gone. It's not going to help the child that's not born yet, you know, and then we keep looking for solutions within our time limit. That's not going to happen, you know. Right. They're not going to see the freedom of our people, but we can put it in play. We can start it. So when do we start it? We talk about the generational gap. The generational gap has always been there. Even when we were kids, the generational gap was there. I'm 72 years old. When I was a teenager, there was a generational gap. All you can do is learn from that generational gap and how to come down to their level, because you cannot bring them up to yours. That's where it starts, changing the language, changing what we see, changing what we talk. Stop talking about the gun being our solution, because it's not our solution. The mind is our solution. What are you using the mind? How are you using that? In the Panther Party, you should know the gun was never our choice of weapon. Our choice of weapon was the book. Why was it a book? Because the book was the only thing that put something in your mind. The book was the only thing you could use your mind to come from. Your ideas, your ideology, your thought pattern. How do you deal with that? You know what the problem is. The problem is savage European. You know what that is. We all know that. So what do we do to put a stop to him? We keep talking about jobs. Why are you going to keep talking to our youth about jobs? I don't talk to my youth about jobs. I talk to my youth about creating businesses.
That part.
Over their own
practice of production. Yeah, not cutting your wisdom, elder, but that part, absolutely. Let's say we're going to
college students here at Howard University. I'm in Washington, D.C. And I tell these college students at Howard University all the time, don't spend 4 years in college to come out and look for a job.
Right.
If you're in college, you need to be coming out creating jobs.
That part.
Where do we switch gears? Let's stop talking about the problem. We know what the problem is. Let's put our heads together and start talking about the solution to the problem. What's the solution?
Well, certainly revolution comes in many forms. It comes from the political aspects, but it also comes by way of force as well. And a mindset, re-educating ourselves, because many of us been indoctrinated. Just be straightforward with that. We've been indoctrinated for quite some time, and a lot of times we don't know the direction. And when you talk about creating job opportunities for our people by establishing businesses, the businesses itself create the job opportunity, but you can't create job opportunity without having the necessary investment that is necessary for even a business to come up. And when you go to the banks, and most of the time you have to go to a bank in order to get a loan or some type of start. You have to work your way up the ladder. If you aren't able to go to the bank, then you save up the money you have from your job that you work on. Then you establish your business, and then you move forward from there. But yeah, for solutions ourselves, we need a strong think tank, just like we're talking and discussing it tonight, it starts with the discussion at first. Then we can move into more of an extreme form of what's necessary, educating the people, having propaganda campaigns, but also offering our folks a better solution when it comes to politics as well. We need something similar to what's going on in South Africa with the South African economic freedom fighters. They know it's a political and economic gain for them if they unite with each other. And that's sort of a campaign or a solution program that we can put in place here. We have the provisional government of the Republic of New Africa, which was put to by Obadiah O'Malley and Malcolm X back in 1964. You know, we start moving towards these types of solutions to get our people off the tit of this American KKK enterprise, and we would definitely be headed to more in a better circumstances where we can call the shots a little bit better for ourselves as a collective group of people. But we also now we're going to have to get ourselves in an alliance, and that starts with uniting with our brothers and sisters over on the continent. We don't have nowhere to take our monies offshore or invest. All we're doing is getting money right now. We got a $3.1 trillion GDP in the African American community, 40 million African Americans, 40 million African Americans who contributed to America KKK annually. And with that 3.1 trillion, that doesn't even include the taxes that our black taxes that are going in, propping up the war machine itself. That's a totally different charger.
Now that part right there, that
about taking our money offshore, but we haven't even done a damn thing with the money we have onshore. So let's get with the deal. Let's you know, I mean.
Yeah, for sure. But we need more financial education in the black community also. That's all we've been doing. We getting a paycheck and giving it right back. We get a paycheck, we get a check and give it right back. That's what's happening. And a lot of it is because we don't own major parts of industries. You know, sure, we got the entertainment industry, we got the athletic industry, and that has done very well for many of our brothers and sisters, but that's not the substance that we should build on. And most of our black talent get absorbed into the white establishment. Those professors, those scientists, those engineers, those are the ones that get taken out of our community, and that's why you see our community so dilapidated in this day and time, because we have not done anything to keep them in our communities, to keep them there and producing for ourselves. So that's a start right there. But certainly, I think the major thing that we can do right now is to financially educate ourselves to the point where we know how to invest our monies in strategic plans. And that's why I see Africa as being a very vital force for us right now in order to do that. Like I said, Africa is where all the resources are coming from. For every nation that is built up on this planet, all the resources come out of Africa. If we can get our powerful black heads in place to go over and negotiate and say, hey, you know what? Instead of giving this money to Exxon or to Sony and these people, make them go through black people in order to get these resources, and especially the African diaspora. The African diaspora is the most smartest African nation on the planet. We have knowledge about all that's going on in these Babylonian nations that we live in. If we can harness that and then take those resources and say, you know what, instead of going directly to the white man, you're gonna have to now start going through some black executives, or force these companies to say, you know what, if you don't got a black executive on your board or in your establishment, then we're not going to be able to do business with you, because that deprives us as well.
Let me ask you a question. For the past hour or so, I've been diligently. Okay, so I have to ask a question. What would you say to me if I told you that the revolution can be won in 24 hours without shooting their bullet?
Oh, I believe it.
I myself, I don't believe it. I believe we're gonna have to shed a little blood, because that's the only thing the white man understands. And if you're not willing to shed blood, brother, I'm just right out. If you're not willing to stoop down on the level, that's like you going to a schoolyard fight. If you're not willing to stoop down to defend yourself and hit and shed a little blood to get a cracker up off your ass, it's going to continue to be the same way. And until we get to that state of mind that that's what it may have to take to do that, then we're going to still be sitting in the same old boat in the category. I just hate to say it, but it's the honest truth.
So you say violence is the only.
No, I'm not saying violence is the only way because revolution comes in many forms. It comes politically, economically, socially, and spiritually. But the folks also have to realize that too, as a part of that evolution, there is a possibility that you may have to shed blood in order to get what you need out of that. And a revolution is about the people, the lands, and the resources. And you can't just the folks who already have that in place, they're not going to give it up very easily. I got a brother always talk to me about the provisional government of we need to occupy these 5 states as a part of the provisional government of the Republic of New Africa, which is South Carolina, all the way across to Texas. And, I said, well, what are you going to do when you get the people down there? You can concentrate in those areas, but them white folks are down there too. So you're not going to go down there and just think you're going to be running the whole gambit without having to shed some blood a part of that because they're trying to maintain their resources and their dominance over these lands as well. But, that's something seriously that we're going to have to really sit down and talk about at some point in time. And we're going to have to stop playing with it. And that's what we've been doing. We socialize ourselves to think that violence is not a proper way to do things. But hey, we live in, I grew up in the 80s. I know what violence is. I grew up in the heart of Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, where I know what violence is. And sometimes you got to take what you want in order to get what you want. And until we get to that point, we still gonna be sitting idle. Black power.
So you see, on one hand, you say we got to shed blood, and on the other hand, you try to say that we can't use violence. But then you talk about shedding blood is violence. Make up your mind on what side you want to be on.
No, you from a diplomatic standpoint of view, and I'm a diplomat myself, and I sometimes I sit in the arena where we have people who are generals and in the defense area, and they hear out the political side. You always start out politically. You can say, hey, these are the demands for the people. Then if you have some folks that don't necessarily get down with what the demands of the people is, if the government itself can't support and take care of its people, then it is time for a revolution. And revolution will be bloody. And we got to stop beating around the paddle and saying, you know what, we don't want to shed no blood and get offense and we might get killed. Hey, that's what it's all about, brother. And we get to the point to where we get sometimes a little scared because we feel like we're going to be the major ones dying in the revolution. But hey, they are right next to us. They're going to die too. And sometimes you got to set, like I said earlier, you got to draw a line in the sand somewhere at some point in time. So we can talk till we blue in the face all day long. And if no one is out there to really get down and say, this is what we demand and willing to stand up and protect the asset or the ideology behind it, we're going to still be sitting on the same old bus riding in the back.
Shabaka.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I want to thank you for bringing me to your platform. I love this conversation. All brothers on the line, peace and love. But I want to say this. The real solution, because on Outlaw Radio, we talk about solutions. The real solution in this is that you have to be the change you want to see, right? Like I can tell a young black male how to take care of his business, but I got to take care of my business. He got to see me shining. He got to see me doing what I tell him to do, but I'm doing well. And what we always tell on Outlaw Radio is if your criticism of the community outweighs your contribution, you're part of the problem. Okay. So we got to stop talking and start doing. Because we can have conversations like my brother said, but what are you doing? Did you raise your children? Are you responsible? Are you leading your woman? Are you in charge of your home? Are you politically aware? Are you economically aware? Are you culturally aware? Do you know who you are? Do you know where you've come from? Do you have emotional intelligence? Do you have critical thinking skills? Do you have problem solving skills? We have to be that kind of example for our young brothers. Because they ain't fucking with us on what we say, they fucking with us on what we do. right?
You're
So we
right.
got to be the change we want to see, and that's the solution. Because you can keep talking about it, but it got to be some doing at the end of the day, right? So
Yeah,
thank
no,
you for
yeah,
having me on, man. I had
that's
such a
me.
great time, man. All you brothers, man. I wish y'all Godspeed, blessings wherever y'all at in this country. I'm just saying, man, be the change you want to see, Shabaka. And call me, man. We'll chop it up, man. Peace and love, man. Thank you for having
Absolutely.
me. Black Power, man. All power to the people, man. Absolutely.
All power to
Okay.
the people. Black
So
power.
always, okay. And that there was Dr. Kevin Barnes, coming in with Outlaw Radio. We appreciate it. Okay, I don't know about you gentlemen, but I'm tired, man. I'm up in age, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm not as young as I used to be. Kind of like looking back, wishing for younger days. You know what
Hey,
Yeah,
I'm
man.
Shabaka,
saying?
Yeah, man.
your main guy, Muhammad Ali, told Howard Cosell, he said, Muhammad, I heard you ain't the man you used to be. Muhammad said, I talked to your wife. She told me you ain't
Yeah,
the man
it
you used to be.
used to be 2 years ago. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that's before the rumble in the jungle.
Yeah,
I
man.
remember that very well. And then a lot of the elders in my age group, and I'm gonna say this here, and I'm gonna end the show. I just want to say that I feel very, very blessed to have lived through Ali's era, is because he was asked many a times when he would go on these talk shows, and they would say, "Well, champ, what advice do you have for any young man that wants to box and to come up and to be like you?" You know what Ali said? Ali said, "Go to school to be a doctor. Go to school to be an architect. Go to school, doing something for the community, because see, it only takes one hit to your head to end your career." That there
Mm-hmm.
was, and he was right about that. You see, but Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Ali was very, very exceptional of what he did. That was his calling. I remember the rumble in the jungle. I remember when he got off the plane there in Zaire, or the Congo, because it used to be Zaire, then it went back to the Congo, and all the people were saying, Ali Boumaye. You know what I'm saying? Ali Boumaye. And the
Scared the
world,
shit out of George Foreman.
oh yeah, he did. But see, but hold on, no. Now Ali was the greatest. Now, not taking nothing away from George Foreman. All greatness is to George Foreman too, because George Foreman, people, is the oldest man to ever win the heavyweight title, and that
Mm-hmm.
record still stands to this day.
Look how great we are. Look how
Yeah.
great we are.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, props to Big George. You know what I'm saying?
For
Okay,
sure.
so therefore, I'm gonna end the stream. Okay, Lightning, do you have any closing comments?
Yeah, just like the brother say, be the change you want to see, And Malcolm X said it himself. A revolution is bloody, So if you knew what a revolution is, you wouldn't even want to say the word. But I would say
Yes.
that unity is the solution. Unity amongst our people, that's the real solution, because it's not. It really, in my opinion, the oppressor right now, it ain't the other man. It ain't the brother man. It's the Blue Klux Klan man. You did.
The
That's
policy enforcers.
yeah. The
The
policy.
policy enforcers, and then also too to brother Joe out there. Okay, I see he left us, but he might listen to the playback. Notice I did not use the term one time. I did not use the term sir one time, brother Joe. Okay, so I'm gonna end the stream, and for once, Lightning, I have to say this, and for once, this tonight, let me mark this day, July 8th, 2025, we do not have not one argument, not one glitch, so you definitely know that there's got to be coming from the kingdom of the Most High and the power of the
Word
ancestors.
up. Word up.
So we effed around, folks, and we did something right. You know what I'm saying? All right,
Black
so
power.
everybody, always.
Appreciate you,
Everybody,
brother.
okay, thank you.
Broadcasting
Yeah,
alive, the motherland. Yes, indeed.
yes, sir.
For sure. And Brother Shabaka, I appreciate you having me on your program tonight. And certainly we'll be connecting soon to kind of converse with some things that are coming up in the very near future. We have the Afro Diaspora Political Economic Think Tank Conference coming up in Washington, D.C. on November 1st. And Brother Black Lightning, he kind of knows a little bit of information about it so far, but I'll be getting with you, brother, so get you acclimated how to participate and when it's going to be.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Okay. Okay. All righty. So
okay, one love, brothers. One love.
Yes, sir. Always. Okay, and we out from Las Vegas, Nevada. Okay, Lightning, I'm about to give you a call. And we thank everybody for their participation. Please share the show on your social media so we can get our numbers up. Please do. All right. Have a nice night from Sin City. Come on, 7-Eleven.
Black power.
Black power.
Mr. Chairman, and to the Credentials Committee, my name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer, and I live at 626 East Lafayette Street, Roosevelt, Mississippi. Sunflower County, the home of Senator James O. Eastland and Senator Stennis. It was the 31st of August in 1962 that 18 of us traveled 26 miles to the county courthouse in Indianola to try to register to become first-class citizens. We was met in Indianola by policemen, highway patrolmen, and they only allowed 2 of us in to take the literacy test at the time. After we had taken this test and started back to Roosevelt, we was held up by the city police and the state highway patrolmen and carried back to Indianola, where the bus driver was charged that day was driving a bus the wrong color. After we paid the fine among us, we continued on to Roosevelt, and Reverend Jeff Sonny carried me 4 miles in the rural area where I had worked as a timekeeper and sharecropper for 18 years. I was met there by my children that told me the plantation owner was angry because I had gone down, tried to register. After they told me, my husband came and said the plantation owner was raising Cain because I had tried to register. And before he quit talking, the plantation owner came and said, Fannie Lou, do you know, did Pap tell you what I said? And I said, yes, sir. He said, well, I mean that, said if you don't go down and withdraw your registration, you will have to leave. Said then if you go down and withdraw, that you still might have to go because we're not ready for that in Mississippi. And I addressed him and told him that I didn't try to register for you. I tried to register for myself. I had to leave that same night. On the 10th of September 1962, 16 bullets were fired into the home of Mr. and Mrs. Robert Tucker for me. That same night, 2 girls were shot in Roosevelt, Mississippi. Also, Mr. Joe McDonald's house was shot in. In June the 9th, 1963, I had attended a voter registration workshop, was returning back to Mississippi. 10 of us was traveling by the Continental Trailway bus. When we got to Winona, Mississippi, which is Montgomery County, 4 of the people got off to use the washroom. And 2 of the people to use the restaurant. 2 of the people wanted to use the washroom. The 4 people that had gone in to use the restaurant was ordered out. During this time I was on the bus. But when I looked through the window and saw they had rushed out, I got off of the bus to see what had happened. And one of the ladies said it was a state highway patrolman and a chief of police ordered us out. I got back on the bus, and one of the persons had used the washroom, got back on the bus too. As soon as I was seated on the bus, I saw when they began to get the 5 people in a highway patrolman's car. I stepped off of the bus to see what was happening, and somebody screamed from the car that the 5 workers was in and said, "Get that one there." And when I went to get in the car, when the man told me I was under arrest, he kicked me. I was carried to the county jail and put in the booking room. They left some of the people in the booking room and began to place us in cells. I was placed in a cell with a young woman called Miss Sylvester Simpson. After I was placed in the cell, I began to hear sounds of licks and screams. I could hear the sounds of licks and horrible screams. And I could hear somebody say, "Can you say yes, sir, nigga? Can you say yes, sir?" And they would say other horrible names. She would say, "Yes, I can say yes, sir."